This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Happy Friday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you. Packed show today. John Shannon on the National Hockey League and the Winnipeg Jets, and we'll sit down and get hydrated with our pal Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press as well. Lots to get to heading into the trade deadline, which is 1 week today. And a reminder to all of you that you're going to want to turn your notifications on YouTube to remind yourself that we're going to be live at 11 a.m. next Friday, as we do every year, with an extended trade deadline show, breaking down all the deals involving the Winnipeg Jets, first and foremost, and of course, everything happening around the league. So that is 1 week today. And next week is going to be huge for us. Our 1,000th show. Hard to believe this is show 997 of WST Daily. So we'll have some fun on Wednesday for our 1,000th show. It'll also be our 4th anniversary on the weekend. Post March 7th game, of course, March 8th, the big day for us. So 4th birthday for the fellas next weekend. But next week's going to be a real fun one. The biggest show of the year, the trade deadline, our 1,000th show. So we've got lots to get to. Today, however, for the first time since the 21st of January, we have to do a show talking about a Winnipeg Jet loss. The streak is over, 11 in a row. And now they look to start a new one tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers after dropping a tight one last night in Nashville on the second end of a back-to-back. We'll break it down. And again, great to see everybody last night at our Whiskey Fest event down at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. We'll get to that just in a minute when I bring Michael Remis in. But yes, hopefully everyone's handling this strange feeling for Jet fans that we haven't had for more than a month, an actual loss. You knew it was going to happen sooner or later. But the team right back at home for one game, a big Saturday night game, the final Saturday night game of the regular season for the Winnipeg Jets, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. So we will dive into that as well. Do want to thank the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at the HSC Foundation. We're going into overtime for our push for the Fund a Need campaign throughout next week. We'll let you know about that and how you can support it in just a minute and potentially get your hands on an autographed Jets jersey at the same time. Of course, our friends at Beam Suntory Canadian Club. We had a great time with Maker's Mark last night. Winnipeg Whiskey Fest is this weekend. If you have not been to that event and you are a lover of whiskey, get down to the RBC Convention Center. It is an absolutely world-class event and bigger and better than ever before. Also want to thank Coolbet Canada. Just had a fun time in the lock shop with Dusty. Got into a little Briar talk and Elimination Chamber as well. You can check that on the EST channel. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Wallace & Wallace, St. Vital Dental, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, fansfirst.ca, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports. And we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Shout out to Trev and the gang, actually. Nice piece on Not in the Winnipeg Free Press today, dealing like so many other local businesses, dealing with all of the bluster coming from south of the border. But we'll lock in on the Winnipeg Jets, John Shannon, Ken Wiebe coming up, and some news in the NFL, which we'll touch on at the end of the program with Hacksaw before we drop the marbles. All right, welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you. Happy Friday. Get ready for a big marble race a little later on, and let's welcome in Michael Remis. Remo, good to see you last night. And man, another really fun, very educational Whiskey Fest event with WST, and great to see many listeners. The fellas from Morden came back from their whiskey club, and great night last night. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result we were hoping to with the hockey game, and it's a very strange feeling for Winnipeg Jet fans today.
Yeah, I learned a lot about Baker's Mark. It was a great event and a good watch party. I mean, they got that huge screen there, so appreciative of everyone who came out and experienced the big tasting. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Great to see James, Ange, Greg, and the gang from Beam Suntory, great supporters of ours. And of course, our pal John Waldman from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. There's a great shot. You see Connor and Liss, myself, my pal Zolt and Dom there. Just a great venue to get people together to, do events. And of course, the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival, a big fundraiser for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. So another great reason to support the event. I was talking with John. You will recall, Remis, that I set out a goal last year after they announced the class of 2024 for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame to nominate a very special person for the hall this year. I can tell everyone that is going to happen, and we'll hopefully have some good news in a few months about a mainstay at all of our games getting his rightful place amongst the greats of the Manitoba sports community. But the game itself, let's dive into it. It's just been automatic getting up, doing this show, talking about another win, throwing a few clips in, looking at who's next on the chopping block. But last night, UC Saros had something to say about that. I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't love the Jets' start in that game. I thought they were a little lethargic and a little slow. But that certainly wasn't the case the entire game. And you can kind of understand it. I mean, that's a long flight to come in real late against a team that, doesn't have much to play for right now except pride and probably a lot of guys wanting to make sure maybe they stick around there post-deadline. You didn't have Connor Hellebuck. That was not an issue in the game, though. I thought Eric Comrie was brilliant and made a couple of the best saves he's made of the entire year. But it really was goaltending, I thought, was the story. I mean, I think Kyle Connor had like 1.37 expected goals, had some big-time chances. And, of course, the power play for the second game in a row, unable to cash in on a 5-on-3. So maybe we're just getting a bit of a market correction on the Jets' power play, which had been historically good all season long. A few kinks in the armor. I wouldn't say anything to worry about, but the first loss, almost speechless, Remis. I forgot what this was like.
Yeah, this is an unfamiliar feeling. How about Kyle Connor? 7 shots on goal, Hustler, you mentioned. And in terms of shot attempts, he had 10 shots in that game against shots on goal against St. Louis. 16 shot attempts yesterday. Real tough for the Jets to get them on net. Only 24 on goal out of 64 attempts. I always advocate for a percentage of shots that actually hit the net, and it seems low there. But the power play, a minute 54, 5-on-3. And you can't score, and hey, you look at the power play, and it is still number 1 in the league. So maybe there is a slight market correction, but I have seen some jokes come out. Someone in our mentions on X, very concerned, called it a retro power play, referring to what we saw last year, and a lot of jokes going around asking if Brad Lauer is back behind the bench instead of Davis Payne, who revamped the power play this year. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I do have a poll out. What's the biggest reason for the loss? 48% of people say power play struggles. I mean, I kind of agree with Kyle Connor. We'll play his clip shortly. They were moving the puck. They had chances. They couldn't score. As I mentioned, Kyle Connor putting shots on net, couldn't beat Saros. He was very good. So I'm not, you're going to lose games. The game was certainly there for them to win. It was a 1-goal game. It wasn't like they got blown out, but Tough to keep it going. Certainly disappointing. You can increase it to a franchise record 12, but I think you're feeling pretty good about 11.
You nailed it. The one thing that was a little uncharacteristic of the Jets was just how errant some of their shots were. Now, Saros made massive saves early on in that game. Like when the Jets did get going, they had some unreal opportunities that did not go in. And I don't know whether they were trying to pick corners a little bit more or it was just a bit of an off night. But when you laid out those numbers, they missed the net on some pretty good chances, a hell of a lot more than they had been pretty much all season long. And, again, Ehlers had a great chance late. Kyle Connor had a couple on those power plays. And a number one, as you said, 7 shots on net. He probably, I don't know what his attempt number was, but I can tell you he for sure missed 3, 4, 5 nets as well, like many of his counterparts did last night. So, as I said, it's not going to keep rolling at 100% forever. A couple things were off last night. And again, even against a team like Nashville that struggled this year, the margin between winning and losing can often be very, very close. And that's what it was. If you are one of those deserve to win-o-meter people, you'll take solace in knowing that the deserve to win-o-meter said the Jets had a 60% advantage in that. Obviously, that doesn't mean much or anything, to be honest. But, you chalk that one up. You thank Eric Comrie for giving you an opportunity to win, and you hope that the goals will come when the Jets sort of start diving into a lot of the Eastern Conference and, teams that are very much fighting for their playoff lives, if they have much left, beginning tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean, the next 5 games, this game at home, and then on the road through the deadline next week against the Islanders, back in Philly, New Jersey Devils next Friday, and then Sunday against the Carolina Hurricanes before coming back for 2 against the Rangers and the Dallas Stars. I mean, as far as the standings go, the Jets still have an 11-point lead in the West and in the Central Division on the Dallas. Dallas is home tonight against the LA Kings. But with the loss yesterday in regulation, Dallas does have 2 games in hand on the Winnipeg Jets, and we'll look to win those and close it up a little bit. But despite a very rare loss, Remis, the only one on the calendar in February, the Jets still in a very admirable and lofty position in the standings as they get ready for Torts and the Flyers tomorrow night.
Yeah, the Flyers, that's the only team the Jets haven't played this year. Surprising here at February 28th. That's just how they drew up the schedule. And yeah, they're still in a good spot.
Actually, I think there's 2 teams we haven't played this year.
Who's the other one?
New Jersey.
They haven't played. Okay, well, I saw someone write it on X, so I don't want to call them out, but
I will, because you only play teams in the East twice. They are in New Jersey on Friday, and then our final WST game is against New Jersey here in Winnipeg. So unless they squeeze an extra Devils game in somewhere earlier this year, which I don't think they have, we still have yet to see the Devils or the Flyers on the sked this season.
All right, well, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing the Hughes Bros win that game, and we get to take it in. But yeah, I think level of concern here, Huss. The power play hitting a bit of a skid. I would say probably 0 at this point for me. Like, do we need? I don't know. We got some posts from people on X saying, "Yeah, the power play's hitting the skid at the wrong time." I mean, there's plenty of.
Is it the wrong time? Is it the wrong time? Like, I'd be far more worried if the power play went dry going into the playoffs. Like, at the end of an 11-game winning streak, when you're in the spot right now, I mean, I think if there was anything to happen, this probably is it. But to their credit, still playing well, still generating opportunities. I think, a reality check is in order for some people. It's not going to happen perfectly every single game. And the Jets, to their credit, have found more ways to win over the course of this 11-game streak. And we talked about the Ottawa game. But again, you know what? They went out. They had tons of chances. UC Saros played really well. They missed some nets. I thought Eric Comrie held them in that game. They didn't win tonight. We move on. We move on to tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers. But the other thing, of course, and we'll get into this with John Shannon in a few minutes, Reem, is the trade deadline and what could or may or may not happen. Interesting. I was listening to Elliot Friedman this morning from the latest 32 Thoughts, and Friedman made a point that he's not sure how much the Winnipeg Jets are going to be able to do as far as the big fish, just because of people with no trade clauses that involve Winnipeg, and suggested that maybe they look to fill some holes with some lesser players and not shake it up too much. There are some people that think that's the way to go for the Winnipeg Jets. I think many of us would love to see a bigger swing, but there is some realities that we never know about of players that, are available, that could be acquired, that because of what they have in their contract might not end up in Winnipeg. So it is what it is when it comes to that. But let's kind of wrap last night's game. And we'll hear from Scott Arniel and Kyle Connor. Of course, Neil Pionk was the lone goal scorer for the Winnipeg Jets. Arnie had to tip his hat to UC Saros after the game, who made some big saves and forced the Jets maybe into missing a few nets as well. Here's the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets.
He was really good. Yeah. He was, and there was a few tips, a few good looks, but there was some situations where we did miss the net. But at the end of the day, we threw a lot of rubber at him. He made some stops. He made some big stops. Again, Combs was good too. Had to be in. We didn't give him the run support that he needed.
Obviously, the power play had another 0 for night, but did you like at least some of the looks they generated? You feel they did a bit more positive?
A lot more tonight than last night. We changed some things around, but we had some great looks. And again, he was really good. Saros made some big stops, and it's what happens. You go through situations, and over the course of the season, and you just kind of stick with it. With some things we'll work on, and we just look at it a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I liked it a lot tonight, a lot better than what I saw last night. So it was a big, vast improvement of how we were moving.
So the coach actually a lot happier with the way the team played, just not quite the result. This was a physical game. There were some big hits, and the Preds certainly were playing for keeps. Here's what Arnie had to say about the physicality in last night's tilt.
Yeah, that's part of what this time of year is, and we're always going to get, the other team's best. Obviously, with us winning 11 in a row, they were really hoping that they could get themselves a win. But at the end of the day, I thought we played well tonight. I think chances were somewhere 13-6 or something like that for us, 5-on-5. We had a lot of opportunities to win the hockey. We had some good looks and a good opportunity, some good zone time, but that's this league. You have those nights. We can usually score goals. Tonight we just couldn't find the net.
There's Jets head coach Scott Arniel, and of course now they get on a plane to come back for one game at home, having to chew on a loss for the first time in 5+ weeks. Here's Arnie on the team's mindset after ending their franchise record 11-game winning streak.
Yeah, we've had a few of these runs this year. I think 3 real good ones. Just reset and get going. We don't dwell too much on, in this game. We'll look at the video and see where we can make improvements, but it's get ready for Philadelphia next.
Of course, against Philadelphia tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Canada Life Center. Kyle Connor, he has been firing the puck since coming back from the Four Nations. He had 10 shots Saturday night and was a little snake bit by Joel Hofer. It was more of the same last night. 7 that made the net to UC Saros, some others that missed it. Kyle Connor spoke after the game. Here's what he had to say about his team's performance last night in Music City.
I thought they played pretty good defensively, structurally. Then, they've always been a pretty good shot blocking team, trying to get some shots on the point. Just didn't seem to find it. And, the goalie's playing well over there, too. It's maybe you try to be a little extra accurate, pick a spot, and it just doesn't happen. But, obviously no excuse. I think the chances were there. We could have had easily 5 or 6 in that game. It's something that we got to work on and bear down.
Yeah, 16 shot attempts for Kyle Connor last night. 7 on net, nothing in the back of the net. And obviously a couple of those missed nets were a little impactful on the lack of power play success that the team had last night. Here's what Kyle Connor had to say about the power play, who all of a sudden, for the first time all season, has gone a little cold for a couple games.
I thought we were moving it well. We did everything but score tonight. I liked our pace. We had an attack mindset. We were shooting pucks to get deliverance from the net. We get more times than that. We get the recovery off that when you're crashing down, all arriving at the same time at the net. We mixed up our looks. Obviously 2 5-on-3s in a row, back-to-back games. We talked about the last one, and tonight we. I thought we threw some good chances at them, and just got to dial it in a little bit more, and we just got to bury on those.
All right, and Connor probably talking to himself as much as anyone, just needing to bury some of those. As I said, 16 shot attempts. And listen, Nashville, they were blocking shots. UC Saros was playing well. 40 of the Jets' attempts did not make it to the net last night. Give Barry Trotz and Brunette's team credit for a pretty strong defensive effort. Got to pull it together after one loss. How does the team move forward after the end of their 11-game streak? Here's what KFC had to say to that.
Same thing we've been doing all year. Win or loss, take what we can, learn from it. If there's anything we can, we're going to talk about it. And, the way the season's going, you got to focus on that next opponent. It's, focus on whoever's coming in next and at home, and be better and make the adjustments we can, but you can't dwell on it. Yeah, it was, obviously a pretty fun streak to be a part of, and obviously historic in this franchise, and it was cool to look back on, but it's, you got to move on. You got to be ready. You got to adapt, and you got to be able to, fight what's next.
All right, one more from Kyle Connor. He just talked about the way Eric Comrie played, because as great as Saros was in the Nashville net, Eric Comrie made some big-time saves for Winnipeg as well.
Yeah, our back-to-backs haven't been great this year, and he's unfortunately have to play every single one of them. So, you feel for the guy, but he gives us a chance every single night. He's been like that all year. Happy that. Not happy we couldn't get the win from, but obviously I think he played strong and showed that he's more than capable of handling his own in there and without Helly.
That skate save that Eric Comrie made last night might have been one of the best of the season. We'll hear from Neil Pionk in just a second. Great little comment from Warren Monroe. Warren, thanks for this one. Just back from Hawaii, jealous. Just back from Hawaii, got on plane wearing my WST hoodie. An attendant looks at it and says, "Winnipeg Sports Talk with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis." Nicely done. Always like hearing that sort of stuff. Thanks, Warren. And shout out to whoever that attendant was that enjoys the show. Neil Pionk was the lone goal scorer for the Jets last night. He was involved all game. Here's what Pionk had to say about the power play as of late.
A little bit of a funk. Just not connecting, not firing all cylinders, but I think we'll get the day off tomorrow, and then morning skate we'll sharpen up.
In that sense, this is a game where you look at it, 1 goal difference, and obviously you had a lot of chances on the power play that almost feel like got away a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Special teams can be the difference in the game, and certainly was tonight. That's not to say Comms would give us a chance, because he made a lot of really good saves on our penalty kills. So we did give up the one, and then didn't score on the power play, and that's the difference.
Neil Pionk on the power play, and of course Pionk amongst many Jets giving a lot of credit to the tender, who they know quite well at that opposite end, UC Saros, with his performance last night.
Yeah, he played really well. They played. Let's give them credit too. They played pretty good as a team too. So run into a good goalie, don't fire on special teams, and that's a bad recipe.
Winning 11 straight games is no easy feat, never been done in franchise history. So what's your takeaway, I guess, from that run of play, and look to start a new streak?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of just what you said, start a new streak. Like every game, whether we win or lose, reflect on it, learn from it, wash it, and get back after it on Saturday.
The Jets, as they've been all year, off day today, back at home tomorrow, 6 p.m. against the Philadelphia Flyers. We're going to talk to John Shannon coming up on the Jets overall and heading into the deadline. But just before we do that, folks, thanks to everyone that bid on all the auction items for the Health Sciences Center Foundation Fund a Need campaign. We are going into OT for donations with the Fund a Need campaign, and you can donate now to support the Health Sciences Center and help us purchase new equipment for the HSC's Adult Emergency Department and help Manitoba's hospital deliver tomorrow's health care today. Really appreciate it. We've got this link that we'll throw in the description and in the body of both the podcast and today's YouTube. Special thanks to Schnitzy, who was down at the whiskey tasting last night, who made a real nice donation, as well as everyone that has so far. And if you do make a donation, any donation, $25 or more, you get a tax receipt, and you'll be entered to win a Jets jersey autographed by the squad, which we'll give away at the end of next week. So we got one more week to push. If you're able to help the HSC Foundation for very important emergency equipment for such an important hospital for our city and our province, please do click that link, team up with us to help the Fund a Need campaign for the Health Sciences Center Foundation. Today, you'll have a week to donate. And then after next week, when we wrap it up, we'll let you know who the winner of that jersey is. All right, let's just before we've got John Shannon coming up in just a couple minutes. Looking forward to that. Let me thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you have a move planned coming up in the spring or summer, Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba, would love to help you and your family go on your way to your next move. Head on over to Rollies.com. You'll see on their website in the top right corner, request an estimate. You click on that, put in the promo code WST first up for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quick with a great quote for you and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies Transfer is famous for. For your next move, make it Rollies. Find out more. Request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. I know there's a lot of spring cleaning that is coming up these days, folks, as we get a little warmer and get closer to the playoffs. Your teeth could probably use a spring cleaning as well. If it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, why don't you pop by and see my pal Dr. Terry and his great staff at St. Vital Dental Center over at 167 St. Anne's Road. Beautiful new office they moved into in the last little bit. Free parking in the back, and just an amazing group of people working there. Fantastic doctors and dentists, and of course, a spot that you can get to in and out real easy. And if you're lucky enough, like Stonewall Dave, who had a 3 o'clock appointment last Friday, you'll be able to catch the marble race while you get your teeth done as well. StVitalDental.ca is where you go to find out everything that they offer for you. You can also pop by and see him and check him out at 167 St. Anne's Road. But online, make an appointment, find out more. St. Vital Dental Center, StVitalDental.ca. And just before and soon we'll be talking about all the fun batteries for your dirt bikes and boats and everything that Donnie and the gang help you in the summer. Right now, though, you got to make it through winter first. The best in batteries for your cars and trucks to handle the Winnipeg winter, not to mention free battery testing at both Manitoba Battery locations if you need to see how you're doing. Bottom line with Manitoba Battery, you'll shop local. You will get the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores like the AC Delco all sizes $149 special right now with Core Exchange. And they'll deliver those batteries to you for free if you can't make it down anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Pop down and see them, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive in the city, or order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's get to some more puck talk. We got the trade deadline coming up in a week. And for the first time in over a month, we have to chew on a Jets loss. John Shannon joins us now.
This is a definition of a Jets slump, you know. Power play's no good anymore. The penalty kills in the middle of the pack. Oh my God, they can't win a faceoff when they need to. It's just terrible.
Hey, what were your thoughts?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, they have been the most consistent hockey team in the National Hockey League this year, right from the the 1st of October. I wrote this and said it on my commentary on OB today, Andrew, but I actually think they played better last night than they did in a couple of the victories earlier in the week. And I think it's in the end going to be good for them that they lost. But when you look at the St. Louis victory and the San Jose victory, they could have, it was a last-minute goal that got them tied and forced the overtime. They were playing on fumes in Ottawa and won the game. So last night should not have been a surprise to anybody, and I think it's a good time to have a little bit of an adjustment at this point, and I'd rather have it on the 28th of February than the 15th of April.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you as well. And people said, oh, the power play's going cold at the worst time. I'm not sure that this is the worst time. It's the end of February. The team's very comfortable right now. And maybe, listen, when everything just goes so well for so long, you sometimes have to be reminded about the tough times and a little bit of adversity, John. And, through the rest of the season, it's pretty clear what the goal is. Win the Central Division, win the West, get the number 1 seed, have the path to the Stanley Cup in the West, go through Canada Life Center, and get presumably a better first-round matchup. But, there still is work to be done. But, man, with an 11-point lead on the Dallas Stars, Dallas does have 2 games in hand. They've really put themselves in a great position. And as they've done all year long, and we just heard from Neil Pionk and Kyle Connor, this team has never really gotten too high or too low. And I imagine they'll be all business once again tomorrow when Torts and the Flyers get to Winnipeg.
Yeah, they will be. They will be. And the fact that you're able to, every Jets fan throughout the province can tell you what the first 3 lines are tomorrow night right now. They can tell you. They can recite them. This will be, Andrew, like we used to talk about, Lafleur, Lemaire, and Schutt in Montreal in the mid-'70s when we worried about lines. Everybody knows who's on Scheifele's line. Everybody knows who's on Lowry's line. Everybody knows that Nemestikov's between Ehlers and Perfetti. And that's a real blessing for this hockey club throughout this season. I will say that here we are, it's the end of February. This team has not had a catastrophic injury. And that's also a sign of a team that has been able to be consistent. Teams that get injuries do not have seasons like this. Look at Kirby Dach got hurt again. Not that the Montreal Canadiens are a force in this league anymore, but Kirby Dach's hurt again. And the Jets just haven't had anybody that they can write beside their name season-ending surgery. And that is so important when you look at the arduous nature of what the 82-game schedule can be, let alone adding, 7 more games or a 7-game series of at Four Nations face-off. So from that perspective, this is as good a year as I've seen any team have in a long time in the National Hockey League.
So that brings us to next week, and there's a lot of intrigue around the trade deadline. Cheveldayoff in the past has been pretty aggressive. When the team has shown that they've given them a reason to believe that, some ads would really help their opportunities, they have done that. But, John, there is, and more so now than I've ever heard this before, last night notwithstanding, we've heard a number of people saying, maybe you don't want to do too much with this team. they've played at a consistent level all year long. The guys that have been doing it have sort of earned their opportunity. And I was just listening to Elliott this morning. He threw out that the Winnipeg Jets could have a difficult time getting a few of the players that they have targeted because of no trades. Is it enough to just add around the periphery, or do you think that this team needs to add a real impact player, whether it be to play in the top six, maybe in the Nemesnikov spot, or a big ad on the blue line?
Well, I'm gonna answer your question, but let me ask you a question. Can this team play playoff hockey?
I mean, I think that they can. And I mean, this is going to be the core of this club. I don't think one or two players is going to all of a sudden fundamentally change what the Winnipeg Jets are today than what they will be after the trade deadline into the playoffs. But you can always get more impact players because, I mean, as you well know, John, I mean, that 2-month grind to win a Stanley Cup, there's so many variables and so many guys that are in and out of the lineup that, it wouldn't be a bad thing to get more good players on an already good team. It's very simplistic, I know, but look at last night. The Forsberg goal. Adam loses the faceoff, and Forsberg flips it to the net, and it goes in. When you're down 2-1 with 30 seconds to go, you better bloody well win the faceoff in the offensive zone, and they didn't. So they lose puck control. And as you know, I'm not heavily into analytics. I like the old-fashioned stats, and I think faceoffs are really important. This team needs to be better in the faceoff circle at key times. So do they have that body on the roster right now? I'm not sure they do. So that's the one place. I also think you need as many, as you talked about depth, I think you need more size on the blue line. I think you need another big body. I'm not worried about zone exits with this new defenseman, if we have a new defenseman, because they do have a great group of puck moving guys. I would like another big body to stand in front of Connor Hellebuck and protect that area of the net, and that area of the ice rather. And that's what I would do. So I'd be saying, okay, does that mean a second line center? Yeah, I could use a second line center. But I also need a big body, and I would prioritize the big body on the blue line more than I would the centerman. Yeah, it was funny seeing Josh Morrissey playing with Colton Parayko. That's a name that had popped up if St. Louis was potentially looking to move.
That's Kenny Wiebe's. That's Kenny Wiebe's wet dream. I think.
Well,
I think he loves that.
But again, I'm pretty sure, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he's another player that would have to agree to a move. He's got term left on his deal. Another guy that intrigues me, John, is Jamie Alexiak. Alexiak's got a manageable contract. I believe he's got 1 year left. And to be honest, he kind of is a Logan Stanley with more nasty in it, more experience, and maybe a little bit more reliable in the situations that sometimes Stan makes fans nervous.
Well, I've been a defender of Logan Stanley all season long, sometimes to my detriment, because I think that the regular season is a time for these guys to get that type of experience. Alexiak would be on my list. Another guy on that Seattle roster is Adam Larsson, who I think if Ron Francis and the powers that be in Seattle wanted to make some changes now that we know they're not making the playoffs, would Adam Larsson fit in? Adam Larsson would fit anywhere. He's a very good defensive defenseman first, and he has unbelievable size. As he's not as big as Alexiak, but he's a big man. And those, to me, those are the types of guys that really would be a difference maker for this hockey club. The signing of Nemesnikov was a fascinating one because I think a lot of people thought, well, he's here, he's got security for 2 more years. What it really did for me, along the lines of your discussion about why do you upset the chemistry, is it reinforced to Nemesnikov that he's part of the remedy here for the next couple of years. Great. But that doesn't mean he has to be the guy this playoff. There's still the opportunity to improve this hockey club for the playoff. And that's why I think they still need a centerman to be after Scheifele and before Lowry.
The guys, when we've been talking about that 2C, Ryan O'Reilly might be a bit of a pipe dream. Barry Trotz has said that he's going to treat him as if he has a no move. He signed there for a reason. And as bad as this season has been, I think a lot of guys like being in Nashville, and he probably looks ahead to his spot. But Brock Nelson could be available from the Islanders. Now, again, this would be another one of these rentals. He does not have a contract beyond this year. It would be a significant price. But what do you think a player of that ilk would add to the Winnipeg Jets? And is that something that would be worth it for Kevin Cheveldayoff to pay the price, which is going to be significant for a player of that ilk?
Well, I would do it because I think this is the Jets' year.
Yeah.
I think if you look at any team in the West to say who's going to put all their chips in the middle of the table, to me, the Winnipeg Jets are going to have to put all their chips in the middle of the table. This is the perfect time for them. They have, the team deserves it. The fan base deserves it. This is the perfect storm for the Winnipeg Jets. So it is. And I must admit, I have changed my tune on this. I think, 7 weeks ago, I was always cautious because, well, you know what? You want to make sure that you get people that want to stay. Well, we now know that the nucleus is going to stay. The core is that the Jets are in great shape when it comes to the core, with that 5 or 6 guys that are always going to be Winnipeg Jets. So now go for broke. Now do it. I think you should add Braden Schen's name to your list of centermen there. I'd love to see Braden Schenn get an opportunity in Winnipeg too. But Doug Armstrong's going to ask an arm and a leg for him. He'd ask for an arm and a leg for Parayko if they ever got there. What Doug's going to do is he's going to say, okay, I'm not even going to go to Braden Schenn to waive his no trade unless you make me an offer that I think I can't refuse.
Yeah, I mean, and Schenn, I think the concerns on Schenn is just the length of the contract. He's 33 right now, but in the short term, this is a guy that would be able to come in. And I guess the other talk is that he'd be, we've heard a number of insiders saying teams are jockeying to acquire both of the Schenn brothers. Oh. We saw the other one, and I mean, it certainly would be a good story. And both of those guys have some pretty significant playoff experience that they could bring to a team like Winnipeg if that was able to be done.
The Luke Schenn story is an amazing one because there was a point in his career before I guess he really got to Vancouver, where you figured this career was done. He was toast.
Did he go to the American League for a while?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. But he did an amazing job of reinventing himself. It's just a fantastic story. And he's the perfect guy for me. He's the perfect guy to fit on that blue line as well. Add him to the list. So yeah, it's a great story. Get the guys, Western Canadian kids, get them back to Western Canada to find a way to win a Stanley Cup. Neither, Braden's won the Stanley Cup, but they've rarely played together. They have probably played together at some point in a summer league when they were 12 and 9 years old, but they probably haven't played together very much. I think it'd be a cool story. And I do think privately they've told others that they'd love to play together. I don't think it's a plot, but I think that there would be a lot of enthusiasm to do that.
I saw a really cute picture of the two of them as kids playing in Saskatchewan on the Red Wings, and the two brothers were on the same team, and Braden was small, and Luke's head was the size of a fully grown adult at 8 or 9 years old. I'm sure that people will see that's out there. We're looking at the landscape of the West. Edmonton's in a real funk. I mean, they have looked ugly coming out of the break. Lost again last night to the Panthers. Vegas is still Vegas. I think the Kings have been pretty good. Dallas, it seems like that is a team that feels probably similar to what the Winnipeg Jets feel, especially after what they've done the last couple. Many teams could be adding. When it comes to the deadline outside of Winnipeg, John, which teams do you think will be the busiest, the most aggressive, and who intrigues you the most in the West as it pertains to next Friday?
Well, I do think Edmonton has to do something for sure. I'm not as concerned about the 5 losses in a row as many people are, just because you get Connor in the right mood and Leon going in the right direction. they're going to be fine. They do need another scorer, though, Andrew. They need a top six for sure to help, put a few pucks in the net. They probably do need help on the blue line as well. The team that always fascinates me, that always is a difference maker, is Vegas. Because I think, I quite honestly, I think Vegas has set the tone for the West probably since they got into the league. Because, Kelly's a riverboat gambler, not afraid to make moves. I wouldn't be surprised if they make another move, a big one before the deadline. It just wouldn't shock me. And many teams, I think now in the West, are always looking over their shoulder, not necessarily what to do, but what's Vegas going to do? Because if Vegas does something, then we better go and actually answer them somehow, some way. And I think that's accelerated a lot of plans for a lot of teams in the West because Vegas sets the tone for almost everything.
Speaking of setting the tone, we had those big moves before Four Nations. It has been a little quiet. Like in recent years, we've started to see a bunch of deals happen like the weekend before the trade deadline. We're a week out right now. Do you anticipate that there'll be a team like Vegas setting the tone early, John? Or is there enough teams that are in the mix, teams that aren't sure whether they're going to be sellers, to sort of wait and for all the talking heads on the trade deadline shows, giving them more to talk about on actual deadline day?
By the way, those are days now I'm glad I'm not part of. I did 10 years of that. I'm glad I did 10 years. I can always say I did 10 years. Now I'll just wait and react. How's that? It's a lot different. But here's the question. Right now there are a lot more buyers than there are sellers. Is Boston selling? Should Boston sell? They've lost 2 games in a row. Should Boston sell? The Rangers, there's an expectation the Rangers are going to buy again or buy more, but, they still may not make the playoffs. And what's happened in the West now, St. Louis, we touched on them briefly. Doug Armstrong's never afraid to make moves, whether you're a buyer or a seller, but St. Louis has points at all 4 games since the break. And all of a sudden, we thought the race in the West for that wild card was between Calgary and Vancouver. And now Calgary is out of the playoffs. St. Louis is in the mix. Utah is in the mix. And Anaheim is in the mix. All of a sudden, this last sprint, there might be more teams trying to add players than get rid of players. And I think that's the reason why we haven't seen as much activity this close to the deadline as we have seen in past years.
Hey, I have to ask you, you have such a unique background. What are those trade deadline days like for the production, the people, and how hectic is it behind the scenes for what people like us don't see what actually comes on the tube?
I don't know if it's hectic, but it's relentless. It's, and I mean, we make it sound like it's hard work. It's, hey, Andrew, we're playing television. No. The calluses on these hands are from my 7-iron. They're not. We're talking about television, but what you have to do is you just have to be so well prepared. So you don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be at the studio for 6 for your makeup call at 6:15 and worry about the breakfast buffet at 7 before you're going on the air at 8 with saying, well, what am I going to talk about? You better have something to talk about. And what happens behind the scenes, if there are 10 trades made that deal with 20 players, the production staff have done a magnificent job for 2 or 3 weeks prior building 200 video packs of potential trades, of potential players that will be moved. And, a fraction of the work gets on the air. And so it becomes a very satisfying day. But I actually think when you talk, I think it's changing too. And it's changing because the flow of information. The teams now want to release the information as opposed to having it leak out. And so there are a lot more things that the team puts out first, with whether it's signings or trades or whatever. And so I almost think we're at a crossroads with what the world of insiders are all about now, and how practical is it, and how many do you need? Because to be the insider, is it important to have it for 5 seconds before the other guy has it? 20 years ago it was different. 20 years ago, when Bob McKenzie, was doing it, and even before that, when we were on the satellite hot stove, news didn't travel as fast. So if you could actually hold on to stories for 3 days.
Yeah. Wait for a good time.
Well, we would say, I mean, John Davidson would phone me and say, I got this thing about Gretzky. Sorry to bring that name up, but we got this deal about Gretzky. What do you want me to do with it? I said, wait till Saturday. And nobody, and you wouldn't even flinch and worry that it was going to get out there. And then we would do it on Saturday, and the story would be told. And Sunday morning, the newspapers would say Hockey Night in Canada reported something on Wayne Gretzky. And so the world has changed dramatically and instantaneously. So the point now is, I actually think that it might be something where the networks and all of us that do this, including you, spend more time, and I think you probably agree, spend more time not necessarily breaking the story, but breaking down the story and breaking down what it means to the Jets, what it means to the hockey team. And that's really probably, because that's what people want. Once the news comes out, they want to come to you and say, I want your reaction to it.
Yeah,
and that's the most important thing.
The information, it comes so fast that, I mean, I could not tell you. I don't think there's a single instance I could tell you this year that something happened and this guy broke it, because the second it happens, it's everywhere and everyone's talking about it, and you move on from there. So no, you're right.
Correct.
So
the challenge becomes, and this should be in every executive office at a network and radio and whatever, is saying, okay, we've got our insiders, and but we should be beefing up our analysis, and we should be doing a better job of our analysis. We should be doing a deeper dive on analytics, whether you like analytics or not. We should be doing a deeper dive on, what makes this guy tick. We should be doing a better job of storytelling about a trade, as opposed to just the fact the trade was made.
John Shannon's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I've always wondered this, John, and I'm going to ask you this right now, just that we're getting ready for the trade deadline. In Canada, it's an incredibly competitive business, and there's two big players. On trade deadline day, how much are you paying attention to what the other guys are doing? And if it is, how does that work? Is there someone's job just to basically see what the other people have and make sure that everyone is abreast of maybe something that you guys didn't have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's somebody in the control room. Their job is to watch. So I worked at Sportsnet, to watch the TSN feed, to listen to the TSN feed, and then yell out, TSN's, they got Paul Stastny going to Winnipeg. And the scramble that occurs at that point, and then somebody mumbling, how did we miss that? Because we have good context in Winnipeg. We know the guys in St. Louis. Somebody let me down. Oh yeah, that happens. And then, I not telling stories out of school. So we would be on a set, and usually it was Chris Johnston and Elliot and me on a set. And we would have monitors, a preview monitor, a program monitor, and we'd have a third monitor, and it would be TSN. So that you could always take a little glimpse at what are they doing, and in the end, for the first 5 hours of the trade deadline, we'd commiserate that we're both just sitting there singing songs.
Is that the most is that the most competitive day in the industry every year?
It's free agent day. I think free agent day and trade deadline day, I think, are comparable. But give the guys at TSN a ton of credit. They invented it. They did a better job earlier than anybody else. And it's been difficult for any competitors to try to keep up with them over the years. John,
before we go, I've got to ask you about your thoughts on the Four Nations. like I was super excited all year just knowing that, oh, wait a second, we're going to finally get the best Canadians and the best Americans. It exceeded my high expectations. A lot of people had low expectations. What were you thinking going in, and what was your thoughts on the finished product of that amazing tourney?
I was positive going in. I thought it would be okay, but it exceeded everybody's, including mine, belief of what it was all about. And what really changed, there was two things that changed it. Actually, there were three things that changed it. First of all, Mario Lemieux walking out onto the ice, opening night, Canada-Sweden, changed everything. And the people in Montreal deserve a ton of credit for what they did to create that atmosphere. So you got engrossed in it right away. Similar to, I'm old enough to remember 72, but very sort of 72, because we didn't know what to expect then either. And then Saturday night, Canada, United States took it to the next level with the 3 fights in 9 seconds. And then the political atmosphere between the two countries right now put it even to a higher level. So it was it was the perfect storm, Andrew. It was the perfect storm for hockey. I'm not sure that there will be any residue of it to help the National Hockey League, particularly in the United States. But it will certainly help the Olympics next year in Italy. But it was to me, it was electric, fantastic. I can't remember the last time I was so excited just to watch a single game on a single night like I was Thursday night to watch the championship game, and feel, even though I've like you, I've been in the media so long, I'm a little tainted about things, that I was invested in the game. And when Connor scored, I did what every Canadian did. It was exciting.
I got to tell you, John, I mean, I've been lucky enough to do some really cool things and go to places. Being in that building for that game last Thursday was, I've said this to friends. If I ever have anything the rest of my life that rivals this, it will be a huge win. And it was something that it just felt so important. And obviously with all the political BS that we're dealing with right now, was just like gas on the fire. And I've never, we were in Boston the entire week. The sports conversations, hell, it was even going over to Fox News, was all about hockey in this series. And it was lightning in the bottle for the league.
That's when you knew it was important, when it transcended the regular sports channels. When CNN's talking about it, when Fox is talking about it, and I do tell people to back off on it was the greatest game ever played. I've been involved in a lot of games at a lot of Olympics, a lot of World Cups, a lot of Canada Cups. It doesn't rival the golden goal in 2010. I was in Salt Lake City in 2002. I will tell you right now, Salt Lake City, maybe the second most electric hockey game I ever was part of was the women's championship 3 nights prior, Canada, USA, when Canada, I think the Americans had 12 power plays and we had 1, and we still won the game. So it was really good. The hockey was fantastic. And for that single glimmer, that single flicker, that Thursday night,
to play 6 minutes and Matt Tkachuk to be injured, but a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Josh Morrissey tragically wasn't able to play in that final game, and Mark Scheifele had to watch, knowing that he probably should have been there. What do you think that this tournament, the aftermath, does for the Winnipeg Jets going forward and into the playoffs, if anything?
Well, the one guy I think it affects more than anybody is Kyle Connor. Because if I was Kyle Connor, I'd be ticked off. He had more goals than any other American-born player in the league at that point. He was healthy. This was a game where one shot might make the difference. One shot. And who shoots the puck better right now in the National Hockey League than Kyle Connor?
Not many.
And the fact that, no, I would put him on par with anybody right now. they elected to go with the big body. That's what happened. John Tortorella, who was in charge of the forwards, I guarantee you, I've not talked to Torts about it. He's there tomorrow. You can ask him. I guarantee you, he said, we got to go with the big body. And he knows Kreider. And so they went with Kreider rather than, the speedy little guy, Kyle Connor. But Kyle Connor deserved to be in the lineup that night. Kyle Connor could have been a difference maker that night. Matthew Tkachuk deserved what he did. Matthew Tkachuk deserved to play in the game, period. It was the Chris Kreider decision to me that made no sense over Kyle Connor. And, I think the Americans will live to regret it.
It did not go as planned, and they basically were playing 10 skaters going into an overtime where Canada had all their guys. I'm really interested to see whether, just the experience I think is not going to hurt. And for Hellebuck, we know how focused and motivated he is. A little heartbroken, but I think even more motivated to do something special for this team in a few months.
The one thing I would say is that all those guys have learned, looking around each of those rooms, particularly the Canadian room and the American room, is, boy, I don't know why I'm here. And boy, that guy who's supposed to be one of the best players in the game, he works his ass off all the time. I better start working my ass off all the time. And that's the Sid message, right? That's what he does better than anybody else. He works his tail off all the time. And I'm sure there are similar stories for guys on the American.
You know what? Funny story just about Sid, John, that I'll tell you and everybody else. We, after the game, let the building clear, and we were out. There's a bunch of Canadians. A lot of the Americans have gone home, and there's a big multi-level bar right next to the TD Garden that a bunch of my friends, we were with some Finns. We kind of had a spot up on the third level, and we're having a couple drinks and just finishing up the night. We look up, and the Four Nations trophies there. And we realize that on the level above us, it's the Canadian victory party with the families and the friends. And they've got the cup up there. And, we put out an Instagram video of it. Cool. We were kind of hooting and hollering at Sid, and he kind of held it up. But what was interesting about it, and it really goes to show the importance of Sidney Crosby to Canadian hockey and that team. The cup was in this area. Everyone was in sort of like the party was sort of in some other areas. It was a little out. And a bunch of guys would come in and get a picture. And essentially what happened was there was a 2.5 hour party. But Sidney Crosby, for about 80% of the time, was by the trophy because every single member of the Canadian contingent wanted a picture with Sid. It was basically the Crosby photo booth with everything else going on around it.
Yeah. I'd say there's nobody like him. There's nobody like him. Mario is great. Beliveau was great. Bobby Orr, Wayne. Wayne is an affable guy with everything that's going on. Let's make one thing clear. Wayne is an affable guy, but there's nobody like Sid. There is no one like Sidney Crosby that way. I've been fortunate to be out with him a few times in Halifax, and people there just treat him like one of the regular guys. It's just one of the guys, and Sid's drinking beer and having fun and telling stories. But if you see him from a distance, he's always one of those guys that he will walk across the room and shake your hand and say hello to you, as opposed to you having to go to him. I can't say enough about Sidney Crosby.
Is there
almost as much as I love talking about Ken Wiebe, because Wiebe's a hell of a guy too.
Listen,
Wiebe's a hell of a guy.
Two of them. Just on that, do you think there's any chance that Sid plays anywhere other than the Pittsburgh Penguins before he's done? I'm not even necessarily this trade deadline. It seems like everything we've heard of, he's committed, he's loyal, but man, you see what he's still capable of, and it's sure going to be a shame to not have him part of the playoffs again.
I would be shocked. I think he has taken so much of the lessons of Mario, and I think that we don't see very often guys play their whole careers with single teams, and I think he's such a traditionalist. He's such a loyalist. I just think he believes that he's part of the fabric of Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's part of him. So I truly would be shocked if that ever occurred at any time in his career.
John, thanks so much for the conversation. Enjoy the game tomorrow and have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, just one quick plug. We had George Peros on our show today for 46 minutes, and I've never heard George talk as graphically and simply about the process of player safety. And it's worth a listen. It is worth a listen. 100% hockey.
100% hockey. Get it wherever you get your favorite pods. That is great. I will definitely be listening. The mysteries of player safety, I think, is something that players, that fans certainly are always wanting more information on. So we'll be jumping on that after
he even
the
breaks
program.
down. He actually breaks down. There was an incident last night in Pittsburgh between Imama and Hathaway. He breaks the whole thing down for us in the first segment. It's fantastic.
By the way, if you're with us on YouTube right now, we're going to add the link in the description of this video to the pod. So if you want to simply, if you're watching this after the fact, jump in there. You can link right over there and check out George Peros. Did the name Ryan Hartman come up by any chance?
Ryan Hartman was part of the conversation as well. I asked him if he was mad at Gary for reducing it by 2 games. So. And he went through the process of how the appeal works, and he went through how the hearings work and who speaks in the hearings. If you're a hockey nerd, I do think you would enjoy it.
And looking forward to it. John, have a great one. Thanks so much again.
Cheers.
Good stuff. Oh man, I can't wait to check that out. George Peros on 100% hockey with John. Great stuff. All right, Ken is coming up. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And it was level of concern about the Winnipeg Jet power play. Are you concerned about the Winnipeg Jet power play recent struggles? Let's get to fan feedback brought to you by Fans First. Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. No fees, folks. What you see is what you pay. And the best customer service, fastest payments. If you are needing to sell a couple tickets, check out the site at fansfirst.ca today. All right, the feedback is this. No, they will figure it out. 56%. Pretty good feedback from fans on that. A little is 23%. And 20% if you said yes. Over 14 is alarming. Including a couple of 5-on-3s that could have been a big difference maker, especially last night. You can give your thoughts on the power play and the end of the streak in the chat. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, just before we bring in Ken Wiebe, shout out to our friends at Princess Auto for the great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. And we will continue counting down the days till we're back at Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year. Speaking of great Winnipeg companies, Wallace & Wallace have been the leaders in fencing and overhead doors in this city since 1946, serving both commercial and residential customers. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's banging up your current one, and give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fences, and if there's a need for a new garage door, Wallace & Wallace has Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, one to perfectly match your home and add value to it as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to come down and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online, wallacefences.com, or pop down and see them in person at their showroom, Lawson Crescent off of Keniston. As we bring in Ken, it is kind of feeling more like winter today, but it will be spring-type temps next week. And as we look ahead to spring, we got grads, we got weddings to get going. Maybe it's time you pop in to see the fellas at F Apparel to step up your menswear game. Custom suits beginning at $400. Custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. Best selection of menswear accessories and a couple great deals on right now. A special for Manitoba graduates. If you're graduating this year, need a new suit, you'll get a free shirt and tie with any purchase. And of course, great deals for wedding parties as you plan for the big day when the fellas get their suits at F Apparel. Pop by and see him, 190 Smith Street downtown. Find more information online or make an appointment for a fitting at F. That's EPH apparel.com. All right, let's get Wiebe in here and continue the show. Great stuff with John Shannon. Appreciate him joining us. And Kenneth, how goes it? Welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Great to be with you, Andrew. Great segment with John there. Appreciate you stretching it out a little bit. Everything is good. Great to hear John's perspective. Not a lot of us have been in those back rooms and on the set when it comes to, been fortunate enough to have a few hits during those broadcasts, but certainly not in the 12-hour cycle that is involved with it. So only have seen the glimpses where Sean and I are waiting to see when they're going to be coming to us, and that can change quickly when it comes to deadline day deals. So it should be a fun week ahead here for sure. Yeah, I mean, glad that the sun rose this morning, Huss. But as we've seen, hard to believe Jets didn't lose a game for 34 days, and when they do, I didn't see a whole lot of people hopping off the bandwagon on the way by as it drove by today. But the numbers of the show last night could use an afternoon or weekend boost here before the Jets play the Flyers.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because we had our event last night. I went out and we were watching the late games, and I got in a little late, so I missed the show live. But I was thinking, like, I wonder if Rennie's going to be dropping some sucky boo-boos on people because they decided that they were going to take a night off of the annual celebration of the number one team because they actually lost a game. It was funny listening to talking to John. I sort of agreed with him. Scott O'Neill said the same thing. The Jets actually probably deserve to win that game more than maybe a couple of others that they had turned into wins recently on this streak. But the combination of UC Saros, who played brilliantly, a power play that just wasn't able to get it done, and a ton of missed shots last night. I mean, they carried the play. They had more chances, more shots, but didn't win. And guess what? That's going to happen sometimes during 82.
Yeah, hard to believe that teams can go with one loss in a month and there still be cause for concern, right? So
was there many people freaking out last night?
No, it wasn't a major freak out, but I was just referring to your to the question of the day here. Andrew, I'm here to tell you that when a team has a 30.9% power play through game 60, I would say the low level of concern should be winning the day by a significant margin. Now here, this is not sunshine and rainbows. 0 for 14 is 0 for 14. That is true. The Jets have had 2 extended 5-on-3s in the last 2 games. One of them was 2 full minutes. The other was 154. Those, if I say they're automatic cash-ins, that's not giving enough respect to the opponent. But when you have a power play as lethal as the Jets have been, north of 30% for the bulk of those 60 games that I just mentioned, it is like an automatic. So when a team like that doesn't, deliver in those situations, then of course people are raising their eyebrows. But in terms of there being cause for concern or any thought that this is going to be now it's a 4-game drought. If people think it's suddenly going to be a 26-game drought, I would say we're into serious wake-up territory. And I would even say this too, Huss, the difference between the power play yesterday versus the game the day before against the Senators, it was night and day. The Jets were far more dangerous on the power play yesterday than they were a day before. So obviously things to clean up. Neil Pionk was the first to say it. Power play is in a bit of a funk, but when the funk is 4 games and not 14, it's just a little bit more perspective on the type of season they're having. But in terms of the level of play, Huss, yesterday, I don't think the Jets had their, A skating legs, which is natural under the circumstances, but I think they made the most out of what they had in the tank. Obviously a couple errors. I mean, one's not even an error. One is one of the best, if not the best face-off guys in the NHL, winning a clean draw in the offensive zone, and Philip Forsberg finding the back of the net before anything could happen in coverage or a reaction. And then the second one is a combination platter. I mean, it's a great play by Luke Evangelista. I think the communication should have been a little bit better. Lowry had control of the puck skating behind the net. Really good pickpocket by Luke Evangelista. He gets the puck in front when that front area was kind of vacated by the Jets, who thought that they had control of the puck. So To me, again, a lot of people say, oh, well, Adam Lowry's got to do a better job there. He was too casual. To me, that was not casual at all. I think that he didn't feel the back pressure in that situation. And Evangelista just made a great play. And the Jets had to have a little bit better coverage on that as well. And again, I'm not trying to absolve Adam of having any blame. He did have his pocket picked on the penalty kill. He's one of the surest-handed players in that situation in the entire league. So I also think you give a little bit of grace to someone who's given as much as he has this year. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a mistake that's made by Lowry. He had his pocket picked, and then the coverage was not there. But outside of that, the Jets did not give up a ton. But at the same time, Eric Comrie still made like 3 or 4 or 10en bellers.
Dude,
right?
that skate save, the fully extended leg with the skate save.
Forsberg had 3/4 of the net. It was, honestly, in real time, Huss, I thought that Sandberg blocked it because I didn't think that Comrie could react in time to make the save based on where he was. But he kicked it out, and just an incredible job there. Again, not enough run support, but Huss, it was a weird game, right? So Kyle Connor has 16 shot attempts in the game. 16. It's a remarkable number, and kind of crazy that, you'd think that a guy as dangerous as Kyle gets that many shot attempts, he's going to find the back of the net probably multiple times. Never mind none at all. And even Josh Morrissey, 12 shot attempts, and Saros made, as brilliant as Comrie was, the Saros kick save with the right pad on Morrissey after a remarkable pass by Scheifele to get it around the opponent.
Oh, that was such a gorgeous play.
Unreal patience on that play, and waited to a perfect time that he could get it in between the stick and the skate. Morrissey got great wood on it, but Saros just kicked across. And it's one of those games where, if you're Scott O'Neill, yes, there's things that you're going to be nitpicking on every single evening, but in the broad picture, the Jets were. That was not their A game, but their B game, if you want to call it that, was still in a lot of areas pretty sound. They just weren't as sharp as normal in terms of their finishing ability, and then a couple of one uncharacteristic mistake ends up in the back of the net, and then the power play doesn't come through. So again, losses are going to have us. 1 loss in 12 games. I mean, that's a pretty good formula to long range sustainability, but. Again, you can argue that, sure, the Jets played with fire the 2 games earlier, the first 2 games out of the break, having a score in the last minute against the Blues, having a score in the last minute with the goalie out against the San Jose Sharks. But that's hockey, and the Jets were pretty opportunistic against Ottawa. Then they absolutely clamped it down in the third and gave up almost nothing, barely any shots. So I would say overall, the Jets coming out of the break have done a pretty good job. Areas to improve, absolutely, but I think they've got the ship pointed in a direction that the coaching staff and the players themselves would be feeling pretty comfortable with going into the weekend one off against the Philadelphia Flyers here before that big 4-game road trip.
Weber, you just mentioned Kyle Connor. I was going to ask you just about, how you feel that the Four Nations will sort of affect him at all. I mean, if anything, he has been he had 10 shots on goal in the St. Louis game. He had 4
9 attempts, right? 9 attempts in the second game against San Jose. 4 shots, 9 attempts.
It just seems like he is shooting the puck as much, and maybe just because the goals haven't coming and he's just doubling down on it right now. But what have you thought of Kyle coming out of the break? And just because we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about this since it happened, how do you think Kyle Connor's disappointment of not being in that last game, but also the experience of being a part of that group might affect him, good or bad, moving forward?
Yeah, I got to say, Huss, I was impressed by the way he handled the conversation. Obviously, I think, again, if Kyle's not one to show a whole lot of emotion in public, I think privately he would have been a little bit ticked off about the way it shook down. But I mean, he also understands, whether it's minor hockey or at the Four Nations, there is some level of politics involved, and I don't mean the politics that we've been talking about on other issues here, Huss. But coaches have their favorites, and when you're not part of the U.S. National Development Program or have played for one of the coaches very often, you got some work to do, and they favored other players over him, and that's fine. You understand that as a player. And again, as we mentioned last week, Kyle didn't have his best tournament. That's a fact. Like, there's no way around that. He wasn't as dangerous. I don't think he had 10 or 16 shot attempts in any of the Four Nations face-off games, which, again, it's a little bit tougher to generate that type of offense on that stage. But at the same time, I mean, Kyle's a intrinsically motivated individual as it is. Kyle knows how he has to play and what he needs to do in order to deliver for his team to help them win and have a better chance of going on a playoff run. So I see Kyle being very dialed in during these last 22 games here. He's done a nice job coming out of the break of being very involved offensively. He's been dangerous. So for me, I think it's only going to help him. I know you're talking about it with John near the end, and I see Kyle Connor wanting, I see him comfortably getting to 40, and he might even push. He could, based on the type of opportunities he's having right now, you could see Kyle pushing for 45 plus. I mean, that's, yes, he has to get on a heater and have a 3-4 goal game in order for that to be a possibility. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he is, in the 40 plus range by the time we're done, and maybe even mid 40s here. So 50 will be tough, obviously, but I think he's in a good place. I think most importantly, also Kyle will have benefited from being around some of the good leaders, great leaders in that USA locker room as well, and seeing the game at its, best on best that we've seen in roughly a decade. So I do see nothing but positives for Kyle. Like I said, obviously he knows it didn't go as planned. He knows he had more to give, and he will be giving everything that he has to his Jets teammates during the next multiple months here, as long as they're going.
Kenny, let's look ahead to next Friday. It is the trade deadline. Hopefully we can catch up that day. We'll be doing an extended show as we always do. This team is in a great spot. They will be in the playoffs. They're looking to be and have much greater success this year than the short stints in the postseason dance the last 2 years. What is your gauge right now of the Jets situation heading into next week? How aggressive do you think Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to be? And are you hearing anyone that is of particular interest to the Jets? I mean, give us a little rundown on where things stand with 7 days to go.
Yeah, so I mean, this is always the feeling out process for general managers, right? I mean, the leaks that are out there are intentional, and I would say that again, it's you have to have what is true in this moment, Huss, may not be true in 10 minutes when it comes to deadline and additions, right? So what we know right now is that with a week in advance, the Jets do not have the Sean Monahan preemptive strike. Does that mean they're not going to be in on a second line center? Absolutely not. What it means is that it's taking a little bit longer for the market to develop. And John touched on it earlier. Because so many teams feel as though they are still in the race, the number of buyers right now outshines the number of sellers. How that changes in the next week is anyone's guess. But St. Louis definitely, Doug Armstrong never shy about saying he's open for business. I would say his level of wanting to sell is a lot lower today than it was going into the Four Nations face-off break, Huss, right? I mean, how could it not be? Points in 4 in a row, first 3-game winning streak of the season. So do I think it's likely that Doug Armstrong is going to be moving out as captain now? I mean, he'd have to be blown away by the offer for me, and same with Colton Parayko. So what I think about the Jets is the same, Huss. There's not you don't have to have an overpay to get a second line center, but I do think they'll be looking for one that makes sense. I do think that the return of Dylan Samberg has helped stabilize the game of Neil Pionk on the right side. So do I think the Jets have to get a top 4 defenseman? No. But what I would say is, and what we saw last year, Huss, is that when Brendan Dillon had his hand stepped on at the end of Game 3 and the Jets were without a top 4 defenseman, it was tough for them in Games 4 and 5. So I think at minimum, they're looking at a third pairing defenseman, a guy that can maybe step up and play, second pairing minutes if you need that player to do so, whether it's circumstantial or if a player maybe isn't at the top of their game. So Luke Shen is someone that we've talked about a lot on various platforms, Huss, whether it be here or his name is obviously around circulating. He's a guy that Jets have had interest in before. Checks a lot of boxes. Played almost 18 minutes last night, had 3 hits, had 3 blocks. Is a guy who, immediately makes your third pairing better. One of the leaders in the league in hits, shot blocker, penalty killer, keeps a pretty clean sheet in the front of the goal, which is an area the Jets want to be better at, and has the championship pedigree of someone who's been to the top of the mountain. So for me, he makes a lot of sense depending on the price. Also has 1 more year, which probably, enhances his value, but also makes him more appealing to the Jets as well. And also to any other contending team that is looking for a defenseman. Now, could the Jets be aiming higher? Of course they could. But we also know, Huss, that they have Elias Solomonson coming in the system, and it's probably not going to be too long before he's in the Jets lineup in terms of maybe next year being a full-time player after getting back from injury. So I think that's sort of where I'm at in terms of defense. I see at least one defenseman. I see defense being the priority, but I still think that if there is a fit, whether it's at 2C or something in that middle 6 area, or maybe even a guy on the 4th line who can play up and down the lineup, I do think the Jets will add 1 defenseman and 1 forward. Now, what level and whether we're looking at a cannonball or just waiting and tiptoeing into the water, that I'm not certain of yet. But I would just put it this way. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is someone who always keeps his options open, and he's going. This is probably, to me, Huss, is going to be one that goes more down to the wire than maybe a preemptive strike like we saw last year. That's not to say they couldn't make a move before the deadline, but because so many contenders are shopping in the same aisle, it makes it more challenging to kind of get a step on the rest of the marketplace, unless a team's willing to pay the higher prices, because we know what comes along during this high stakes game of chicken is that the more interested buyers you have, the sellers are going to be trying to maximize their price right now. So, who's going to blink first? That is going to be interesting to monitor. But I definitely, and while I understand the camp that is saying, don't mess with the chemistry and all these sorts of things, like, you definitely are being cognizant of the type of people that you're considering bringing in, Huss. But, quite frankly, I thought Craig Button nailed it on the broadcast yesterday. When you have a leadership group that is as strong as
Craig was
Winnipeg's,
unreal yesterday.
You don't hesitate bringing in someone who makes the team better under any circumstance. You're trying to win the cup. You know what you don't see on the Stanley Cup, Huss? The list of cohesive teams that were worried about making a move and don't, because they're worried about upsetting the apple cart. You see names on the trophy that belong to a lot of teams that took the risk, and sometimes it's not even a risk bringing in those types of players in. So again, I'm not saying, do whatever you want and bring in someone without doing your background checks and everything else. But I would say that almost every player that the Jets have been linked to or would be interested in are people that can fit within the structure, right? I mean, so last year it didn't work out with Tyler Toffoli. That wasn't because he's a bad person. It's because he doesn't play with the type of pace the Jets play with, and he didn't produce and finish the way he normally does. So that doesn't prevent Kevin Cheveldayoff from looking to upgrade his, whether you want to call it the top 6 or the middle 6. And it doesn't preclude you from going after someone that brings a little more jam to the bottom 6 either, Huss. So what I also think too is that the Jets have missed Morgan Barron, Huss. Morgan Barron plays a, big physical game. So much like last year when he was not available against Colorado, when Barron's not there, even though the 4th line is playing great and they were the line that created the goal for Neil Pionk, I think that when Morgan Barron is in the lineup, the Jets are a little bit more dangerous when it comes to playoff style of hockey. So I could see them looking at kind of a bigger bodied guy that can provide some secondary scoring, whether that's in addition to a 2C or instead of, that kind of remains to be seen. But I see the Jets making either 2 moves or going to one team and finding, a couple of different players. And again, we saw a guy earlier this week, Huss. Mario Ferraro is a guy that has been linked, has been mentioned as someone. I thought he was excellent on Monday, Huss, incredibly competitive. And it's funny, to me, I've watched Mario play a ton, never at ice level. He's always someone that I thought was a bit undersized, but 6 feet 209. He plays with so much bite and he's got mobility and he shot block, tenacious in front. I think that he would be a great fit. Huss, and to tee it up, Mike and I are working on Dump and Chase, and this is our trade board special that will be in the Saturday Free Press tomorrow. So I think that Ferraro's someone who makes sense. Like I said, Shen makes sense. Depends what side you're looking at, what you're going to do. Like, is it possible the Jets got 2D? Maybe, but I doubt it. Just because, they're pretty comfortable with where the depth is at. Colin Miller has played a good year. I thought Hayden Fleury jumped into the lineup nicely yesterday as well after a month in between games. So I just think that they'll be looking for one defenseman for sure and at least one forward. So for me, Huss, I think I might have mentioned it. I like the 2022 Colorado Avalanche model where they went out and got an Arturi Lehkonen and a Josh Manson. Those were two specific needs for the Avalanche. And again, I'm not saying those are the two players the Jets would be after because they're not available. But those are the types of players the Jets would be looking for. Now that year, the Jets also the Avalanche went out and got Andrew Cogliano and they got Nico Sturm. So they added depth, but the Jets are in a much better position depth-wise than Colorado was that year. So I think they look for a specific need up front, whether that's a center or a winger, we'll see. And then you look for a specific long and lean and a big, strong back end player that, if they have mobility, it's an obvious bonus. They'll obviously be prioritizing the mobility, but that piece of the puzzle is also something I see them going after.
I am not sure if we're not going to see maybe a couple defensemen at it.
It's possible.
I think that they've done a very admirable job with the guys that have been in. But I think that with the goal of going as deep as they want to go, I'm not sure whether they have that depth yet. And, if you could ping in a couple players that sort of knock a few of those players in that 6, 7, 8 down a rung, I think that might be. But I before we go, I want to ask you.
Huss, if it's Shen and Ferraro on the third pair, that looks a little bit different than it does today, right? That's just a fact.
Big time. That, and that's exactly kind of what I'm saying. I don't know whether that big fish top 4 defenseman is going to be there, but some guys that, you can count on, you can play big minutes that are bringing some of the things that you're looking for. But will the Jets be dumping into Lou's corner and chasing Brock Nelson? What do you make of that situation? And would he be, assuming that a Ryan O'Reilly might not be available?
Yep.
Is that a guy? Because, man, it does seem like we're having the same conversation. And I know they've sort of whiffed on Kevin Hayes. The best ad they've ever made was Paul Stastny, and he came in and this team looks pretty similar to that. And if you added a guy like that down the middle, I can tell you on paper, it sure looks a lot more formidable and a lot more able to handle the big boys that'll be coming at some point if you're making a run in the West.
Sure. And again, Ryan O'Reilly would be at the top of most lists for me. I know he's not the most productive player, and yes, he's 34 years old, but to me, the fact that Ryan O'Reilly has 2 more years after this one at 4.5 would make him in some ways more appealing than Nelson, in case you can't sign him, right? If you're getting Brock Nelson, you're in the same spin cycle as a lot like the Jets outside of the PLD years when they had the 2C there. It's rentals with Stastny, Hayes, and Monahan, right? So
would you be fine with doing that this year? What we've heard about O'Reilly is that, they're going to treat him as if he has a trade. And I'm with you. If you could get Ryan O'Reilly, you do that in a heartbeat. You make it happen and come in. Just don't know. Elliott said today, I'm not sure if you caught it on 32 Thoughts, that, he thought the Jets might be adding around the periphery because some of the players that they truly like have Winnipeg on the no trade list, and it just won't be able to happen. That's not the case with Brock Nelson. But again, you are getting into a rental situation. But with where the Jets are right now, I think, as long as the price is not astronomical and it sets you back big time beyond this season, I'd be willing to pay the price on a guy like that because of the difference and what that would do top to bottom in that lineup with the trickle down.
Well, he brings offense, but he also brings a little bit of size that second line, quite frankly, doesn't have. Us. They're competitive guys on that line, but they don't have, even Ryan O'Reilly is, 6'1", 209. So they could use a little bit of heft on that line. Both Nelson and O'Reilly would bring elements that would fit perfectly with the Jets. And again, as Craig Button pointed out, Uncle Dave Christian was a 1.0 Jets player. So he would have probably, I mean, again, we know it's a different time, but based on the fact he's from Warroad, and played at UND, I would think that there'd be some appeal. But Huss, the thing with Lou Lamoriello generally hasn't sold when he thinks that they still have a chance to make it. And the Islanders are one of those teams that are hanging around the periphery, right? So for me, it's going to be a last minute deal with both Kyle Palmieri and Nelson.
Jets will have to blow them out next week. Just like kind of push
them out of the
Lou
race.
A little closer to making that decision.
Again, but Brock Nelson is exactly the type of player the Jets would be looking for, right? I mean, the reason I think I would have O'Reilly slightly ahead is that not only is he a Stanley Cup champion, he's a Conn Smythe winner and a Selke winner, right? And he goes to, where did we see Ryan O'Reilly yesterday, Huss? Living around the blue paint, winning faceoffs, winning battles, on the penalty kill, on the power play, out against Scheifele, right? So kind of does it all. I'm not saying Nelson doesn't do it all. He has a lot of those same qualities, but the one thing he's lacking is the championship pedigree. So both really good candidates. But Huss, I mean, what we've also seen is that, and again, I've been scouring rosters this morning. I'm trying to find that Paul Stastny-like person who maybe isn't on most of the lists that we're suspecting. I mean, could it be someone on the back end like Brandon Carlo? Maybe that makes some sense, but he has trade protection. Brad Marchand is someone who I love the way he played at Four Nations. Yes, he was not used in the same type of role, but I mean, given how tenacious and the type of edge he plays with the championship pedigree, that would work well on a second line also. But I understand he doesn't play center, so it's not necessarily the perfect fit on what you would suspect, but. Something like that is going to emerge at some point here in the next week, I think, and the Jets are going to jump on it again. Mikko Rantanen, we've heard the Jets would have some interest. Every team in the league should have interest in Mikko Rantanen if he's available, but I personally don't see how a team that had, I think, 11 pending UFAs on their roster is going to give up on the one that they just traded, two high-end players for, or one high-end player and one complimentary player for. I don't see that happening, but again, that's the thing about Carolina. They're a little bit unpredictable. So we'll see what happens. I do think the Jets, I don't know that it'll be a cannonball or just more of a, couple of, smaller, I'm not going to say smaller, but smaller in name type of deals. But I see them making impact moves here, whether they're big names or guys on the trade board or guys that maybe will show you later much like Nemesnikov and Niederreiter have done for the Jets. Kind of guys that have maybe been around a bit, but maybe waiting for a bigger role on the team that they're coming to.
Hey, listen, just quickly before we go, because, when we talk about, potentially adding to the top six, if it's not center, somebody moves down.
Yeah.
Listen, Cole's been playing really well. He's clicking with Ehlers. Do you think the Jets are sold that Cole Perfetti's playoff ready and capable of doing what they need from a top six forward come playoff time?
Absolutely no doubt in my mind, Huss, that's how the Jets feel, that they've seen Cole turn the corner this year. We've heard Scott O'Neill talk about the maturity of both the player and the person, not beating himself up during the cooler periods. He's been incredibly consistent, going to the hard areas. I don't think that Cole Perfetti would be a concern at all for the Winnipeg Jets going into the playoffs. So again, that probably means their focus will be on center if they do look at a top six player, but I just think they're keeping their, mind and options open, depending on fit and something, it's not going to fall in their lap because they will have done the work. But I think there's probably still someone that we're not suspecting. We've heard all the names and the connections, but I do think that they're going to make, at least one deal and bring in two players that end up, making an impact for this team when it matters most.
Kenny, have a great weekend. We'll see you at the rink tomorrow, and looking forward to a big week next week heading into the deadline. Take it easy, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Have a great weekend. Cheers to Hacksaw.
You betcha. There it is. Ken Wiebe, Winnipeg Free Press, Dump and Chase, trade deadline edition tomorrow. Mike and Ken in the Saturday Fish Wrap. Pick it up or subscribe online to winnipegfreepress.com. All right. Hey, speaking of games, Jets are just home tomorrow. Then they're back out on the road. Come back for a couple big games against the Rangers in Dallas in a couple weeks. But our final WST game of the month, where we are 5-0 as a group, looking to make it 6-0, is Friday, March 28th against the New Jersey Devils. Now, We've had great response to this game. It actually sold out last week. So I contacted the Jets, and it looks like we have more tickets available. So if you want to join us for the game against New Jersey, Friday, November 28th, should be a real fun one. A Friday night game, a top team from the East coming in that we only get to see once a year. Jack and Luke Hughes coming in. Jump on that right now. WinnipegJets.com/WST. New seats added to our section. Get them before they are gone. And, of course, do what you can to get in the building tomorrow night for what should be a real fun final Saturday night regular season game of the year. You heard it. Hacksaw is coming up in just a second. Of course, it is Beer Friday, and while we're not off the clock just yet, we'll crack one a little later, but right now give a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, I have a couple generics on the weekend. I'm sure I actually got my generic hat on today, just realized. Tomorrow, if you don't have a ticket to the game, you know where the next best place to be is your local Boston Pizza. BPs all year long have been so much fun for Winnipeg Jet games. Of course, they've got the pick a player game at all local BPs where you get a player for your table. And if that player scores, you're spinning the BP prize wheel for some great food and prizes from Boston Pizza. It would have been tough to have the Kyle Connor pick a player last night with all those shots and not lighting the lamp. But when it comes to Jets hockey and NHL hockey at BP, all the big screens, big sound, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas. What more could you want? Surrounded by a bunch of your best friends. And hey, if you can't make it out tonight and every night, you can get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And hey, this weekend might be a great time to pop down to Royal Sports. Check out their massive Winnipeg Jets section, including all of those cool one-off special collab hats that they did with New Era, a bunch of unique color combos that you haven't seen anywhere else, multiple different Jets historical logos as well, and of course the jerseys, the hats, the hoodies, the scarves, everything you need to get ready for the postseason is at Royal Sports. While you're there, check out their world-famous massive hockey section with the best in equipment, really everything from the game, from full equipment all the way down to skate sharpening, stick tape, and pucks. And make sure to check out all the cool stuff on the King's skate, snow, and surf side, including some new arrivals to their Yeti cooler section with many Jet colors heading into spring. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Pop in person or check them out on Instagram and give them a follow for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Looks like Marbles is open. You know what to do, everybody. ! Marbles in the chat. And as we do on Fridays, let's check the NFL notebook with our guy, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Hacksaw, what's going on? It's been since January 20th that we had to chew on a Winnipeg Jet loss, which happened last night, breaking the 11-game streak. But I know you've been paying attention to the team north of the border. It's been a great run as of late.
Can we just get to the playoffs right now?
Sign me up for that.
By the way, I'm going to send you a memo into everybody north of the border in what I call the Great White North, my old Canada network. I know you're amped about the trading deadline, but pal, don't screw with a 42-15-3 team. You guys are talking like you're going to make this trade, that trade. You have to do this deal. Don't disrupt the chemistry. And I'm sure your general manager is probably standing on my street corner today rather than your street corner. Because you guys just talk about trades.
Yeah.
And obviously,
welcome to Canada before the deadline, Lee.
I concur. I understand that. Trades also involve currency, salary cap, draft picks, and team chemistry. Got to be a little bit careful. Last I checked, you're 42-15-3 and you're not the Anaheim Ducks trying to fight in for the last playoff spot or Vancouver trying to hold on. So I love the trade deadline. I just went back yesterday because I did something on my podcast. There were 43 trades in and around the deadline last season. Now, there have obviously been a couple of big ones already just weeks and weeks ago. So it's going to be fun. And, of course, the ones that are sellers, are they trading contracts, dumping contracts, trading underachieving players, mortgaging guys that they're not going to be able to re-sign? It's fascinating what the NHL trading deadline has become.
Lee, it's funny. There's a lot more trades in the NFL we've seen the last few years, more often than not for picks. Matt Stafford was rumored to be available from the Rams. Did the Rams just not get what they were looking for, or did they realize that they were insane for giving up a guy that won them a Super Bowl? Tell us about the latest on Stafford with this restructured contract and extension.
Well, if you just want to hit the reset button, a week ago on Beer Friday, I kept asking the question, why would the Rams ever consider this?
You did.
He's the heart, the soul. He's the chemistry leader. He's a proven commodity. Yes, he's got 37 years of age on the tires, but the dude can still play, and he's surrounded by a pretty good young team. But at the end of the day, he had restructured his contract twice to help them with salary cap situations, and he comes to the reality that he's grossly underpaid. He made $27 million last year. The Stars are making $50 million. There's 9 guys making $50 million per year at quarterback. He was making 27. Rams did not want to trade him. They've got their own salary cap things that they got to pay attention to, Hustler, because they got to re-sign a whole bunch of young guys who are playing well, whose contracts are coming up. And at the end of the day, they told Stafford's agent, go out and just find out what's out there and then come back to us and we'll have dialogue. Well, in a 2-day span, Matthew Stafford went to Montana and met privately with Tom Brady, representing the Raiders. And I'm sure there was dialogue about dollars and cents. I was told it was probably a $45 million contract the Raiders are willing to do because they got the cap space. And then yesterday, his agent, Jimmy Sexton, at the Combine in Indy, met with the New York Giants. And they talked specifically about something I was told was probably $45 million. So there was money on the table. But you needed a trading partner, and the Rams were insistent, if you're going to take my quarterback, I want your number one. Well, there's no way the Giants are trading their high number one for a 37-year-old quarterback. And I don't think the Raiders were willing to do that. I was told the Raiders were willing to maybe go a third and a fifth to get Stafford. Rams said no, because I don't think the Rams ever really wanted to let him go. So at the end of the day, they had not announced the formal terms of the contract. I'm led to believe the base package is $40 million, $25 million guaranteed. I don't know if there's a second year or a second year option that's attached that might take him to $50 million the second year with $25 million more of it guaranteed. So Stafford's going to get his payday. The Rams keep their star quarterback. And I kept saying all along on all the NFL interviews I do that he would be the first domino that would have to fall, and then other things would start to fall in place. So he is now a Ram, and I think it's great that he's there, and he's great he's being rewarded. And the Hustler, I've interviewed him a couple times. He was a hell of a leader in Detroit in a bad situation. He's become a tremendous leader in L.A. and a very trusted guy in the locker room. And the intangible of Matthew Stafford, what he does for charities, and you appreciate this because I know what you've interviewed a lot of different guys about, what he does for charities in Detroit still, what he's done in L.A., he and his wife, just absolutely staggering. So they keep a superstar and they keep a really, I think, great guy. So that's the summary story about Matthew Stafford, how they got to where they are today.
So where does this leave the Giants and the Raiders, the two teams that were rumored to be interested in Stafford's services and still don't have, even median level NFL quarterbacking?
The next domino to fall will be Aaron Rodgers. He is going to be released. His agent was given permission a week ago, and we talked about this on Beer Friday, to talk to other clubs. I'm led to believe they've now had 2 meetings with the Raiders. Meeting today with the New York Giants. That sounds weird that the Giants would take a guy the Jets are getting rid of across town and out on Long Island, but that could well happen. I still think Aaron Rodgers has got gas left in the tank, but he's got to be in the right situation, which means a much better offensive line than he had in front of him with the Jets. The Raiders don't have that offensive line. I don't know where the Giants are in terms of talent because they've had so many injuries in their offensive front. But I think the second domino that falls is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Now, there's a bit of an asterisk next to that because he's openly talked about, if I come, I want to bring my wide receiver Davante Adams with him, and the Jets are going to release Davante Adams. Both those guys, though, are going to have to take pay cuts. I don't think anybody's going to pay Aaron Rodgers $40 million, and that's what's on the Jets deal. And Davante Adams, I think, was making $27 million last year, and his cap figure is $36. He's going to take a pay slice too, but they may go hand in hand somewhere else. I don't know if the Raiders are the right situation. The Giants on a short-term rental might be the right situation. And in terms of the Raiders, is the other story that's out there at the Combines in Indy, that the Raiders are actively talking to New England, that the Raiders would be willing to trade the 6th pick and the 3rd round choice they have to just go 2 slots up to get to number 4, take the New England pick, and take Shedeur Sanders. If Sanders is still there, I'm led to believe he will still be there. So are the Raiders better served to trade away assets to get a kid quarterback they could build around going forward? Or are they better to rent Aaron Rodgers and then go into the marketplace and just use all their cap space and use all their draft picks to go get people to put around them? So that's what's going on with the next tier of teams that desperately need quarterbacks.
Hey, I can't not mention the Vikings. Of course, they've got the young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold had that incredible comeback year that ended with a thud in the playoffs. How does Kwesi and KOC handle the quarterback situation? What are you hearing about Minnesota?
Well, the franchise tag deadline is Monday at 1 o'clock West Coast time. So teams have between now and then. There's only been one player that's been franchise tagged so far, which is kind of stunning because that locks you down salary cap-wise, but it keeps your player there, and you still have a window to negotiate an extension between now and July, even if you franchise tag the guy right now. At this point, I think Minnesota's backed away. I don't think Minnesota, as much as they like what Darnold did, but he did fade at the end, I just don't think that Minnesota is of the opinion that we want to give a $40 million guarantee to this guy, because that inhibits you in other places as it relates to stockpiling more talent. I think they'd like to sign him into an extension. I don't know that progress has been made as to what the terms of those extensions are. You know, Darnold made 10 last year on a show me what you can do contract, and now I was told he wants $35 million per season on a multi-year deal. That's still pretty pricey, I think, for the Vikings. The Vikings situation's further complicated as J.J. McCarthy is not ready to play football. This recovery, this rehab from the significant meniscus tear in the knee, Hustler, real significant. I've been told he's not going to be in spring ball and OTAs, which means he's way behind the curve. It'll be 2 years without him really having played any football. And they got the 3rd quarterback, Daniel Jones, who sat there in all those team meetings after the Giants released him, went to Minnesota. Might he be an option if Darnold goes somewhere else? Do you sign Daniel Jones, who's got something to prove, although he's gotten a big payday from the New York Giants and they ate the contract? So, it's weird to say this, but a great season that Kevin O'Connell had, and I like O'Connell a great deal. They got 3 quarterbacks. They don't have a starter right now as we sit here and talk on a beer Friday. So the Darnold domino will be the next one to fall, I think, after Aaron Rodgers falls. And Darnold can't negotiate with anybody till March 10th. That's when the true NFL free agent window opens.
Lee, before we go, of course, just wrapping up the combine in Indy. It seems more and more players are not working out there. They might go there for a few meetings. But any interesting buzz or news or juicy tidbits for the peeps coming out of Indy?
Big argument. Who's number one? Is number one Travis Hunter, the multi-dimension player, the cornerback wide receiver, Colorado? He's met twice with Tennessee. He has met with Cleveland. Tennessee has said, we'll let you play both positions. We'll slot you as a wide receiver, but we think your value is really as a cornerback, but we'll let you do both. Cleveland has said, we want you to do one thing. I think Cleveland wants him to be a wide receiver more than anything else. So Travis Hunter is question one. Then, of course, the quarterbacks. Is it Shedeur Sanders, who's done so many dynamic things at Colorado, but there's a bit of a rap on him. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm. Or is it Cam Ward, Miami, who did unbelievable things with the Hurricanes for 1 year? Prior to that at Washington State as a one-man gang. He looks like he's going to be the top quarterback. And then, the draft is really deep. Lost in all the conversation about the neon light guys from Deion Sanders' team at Colorado is the fact that there are a ton of offensive linemen who are really good. And there are really good, skilled wide receivers. And obviously, there's a bunch of warriors on the defensive front. So at the end of the day, I think this is a really 1.5 rounds of deep star talent. And I think there'll be some surprise picks early. Wait to see who trades up, who trades down. But the guys not working out, they're going to show their stuff at their own individual pro days for the scouts coming up in the next 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the draft. So the month of March is a really busy time when everybody holds their pro days and guys get to throw under ideal conditions, not the stress of what the combine is. That's the long answer to multiple layers of the combine question.
Lee, always great having you on the program. Fill people in on what's cooking over at LeeHacksawHamilton.com and, of course, on the show as well.
Well, our podcast, we had to juggle some time schedules, and some of our old Canada guys haven't been able to join us on a consistent basis. You just need to go longer. That's all. We launch at 1:30 on Mondays and 1:30 on Thursdays right now, just because I've had some scheduling conflicts, and I know that usually turn the lights out at 1 p.m. West Coast time. So, hey, just a reminder to the Old Canada Network, make a note somewhere that you can go from Hustler, go get a coffee break, come back and join us at 1:30 West Coast time, Mondays and Thursdays.
It's a good reminder for people to turn their notifications on. So when you're subscribed, and then boom, Hacksaw will be on. Oh, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's live. It'll be a nice reminder if we don't do the big raid. Saw, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure. Enjoy your beer Friday. Have a great sports weekend. Thanks, Hustler.
Take care. There is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. All right. Just past 3 p.m. You know what that means, everybody. It is just about time to do the marbles. Last call for marbles. Right now, !marbles in the chat if you just jumped in. We will get to the cool bet lines, and then we will officially begin the weekend. Quieter night in the National Hockey League today. Let's fire up coolbet.com and see what's cooking for tonight. We've got the Maple Leafs at the Rangers. The Leafs -119 favorites. The Rangers +101, down from +103 earlier today when we did the lock shop. The Dallas Stars. Dallas only a -123 favorite against the Kings, which is a little surprising to me. I do like Dallas in that game tonight. Although I'm here for a Kings win if they can do that to just keep the cushion of the Jets at 11 points. LA +105, Dallas -123. And then the Avalanche are huge favorites against the Wild. It's just crazy. The Wild are the best road team in the league all year. But it's very clear, like the loss of Kaprizov has been devastating, but they kind of got through it. It's real tough to do it without your number one center. And with Joel Eriksson Ek on the IR right now, the Wild have really been up against it this week and got absolutely pumped last night by the Utah HC, which brings us to our partner parlay tonight. We're going to take the Rangers at home to the Leafs. We will take Dallas at home to the Kings. And the -333 number is way too big. But, you know, playing on back-to-backs, as ugly as it looked last night, I know Gustafson's back in. We're going to take the Avs, who now have Nichushkin back at -1.5. So, Rangers, Stars, and Avs puck line boosted up to +637 right now. You can get that in the combo cards on the front of CoolBet. Of course, tomorrow's action in the NHL, I don't believe up yet. None of the games up yet. Maybe a little bit later on today. There are a couple of interesting trade deadline specials right now. I don't really have a take on the Nick Robertson, where he will be on March 8th. Dylan Cousins, you can bet. Buffalo Sabres is -270, meaning he's not traded. You've got 6-1 for Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, 7-1 for Habs, Wings, 10-1 for any other team. The one that I actually bet earlier today on the lock shop, and I see the line has moved a little bit, is Seth Jones. Which organization will Seth Jones be with on March 8th? Blackhawks earlier today was 3-1. It's now down to +250. And listening to Elliott today, he said it just seems like that is such a big deal to make and will be very difficult to move. That salary, that term. at the deadline. Could it happen in the offseason? Absolutely, but maybe less likely to happen in the next week, which means there's some nice value at Chicago, even a plus 250 after being plus 230 the other day. And speaking of plus 230, Mikko Rantanen, minus 417 to be a Hurricane after the deadline, plus 230 for any other team. Remis, this is one of the most interesting stories I can remember in and around the trade deadline in years. The fact that Rantanen already traded and now number one on many trade bait boards. Going to be fascinating to see how Eric Tulsky and the Hurricanes navigate this in the next 7 days.
Tulsky, I read the Athletic agent poll, and it said Tom Dundon is actually the de facto GM.
Right.
That's the owner. Who was what was he called, the most difficult owner to deal with, according to the 17 agents polled.
Not a big fan of
Athletic.
the agent class.
So we'll see what happens. I remember last year, wasn't there talk that the Canucks, they acquired Elias Lindholm, that maybe they would look to flip him at the deadline? He is like up there on the list. You're waiting to see if there's an extension. They're offering him big money to stick around. They can offer him 8 years. He hasn't really given them a definitive yes. And if your answer isn't, hey, to answer the question, hey, would you like $100 million guaranteed? And your answer isn't immediately yes, then I don't know, like, what more do they need to convince him to stay, Hustler? So maybe he is on the move, or maybe they just keep him, but he is on the top of all the trade boards. So wasn't it plus 3 something yesterday? Any other team?
I thought it was, actually.
We'll have to watch the tape.
It actually went the other way. We checked with Jake during Lock Shop, and it was actually minus 625. So the likelihood that he would get traded has actually increased. And again, plus 230. If that happens, it'll be one of the most interesting trades in a long time. I've heard the Jets, amongst other teams, have been interested in kicking tires on Rantanen, but I mean, we're talking about, what would it cost for a rental 2C? I mean, I think you'd have to assume that Mikko Rantanen would likely be a rental here. Tell you what, if that happens, you'll certainly know how all in the club is. I'm not holding my breath on anything to do with Rantanen, but I'm certainly here for all of the conjecture and the discussion around it. The Brier starts tonight, gang, and Coolbet's your number one spot for bet and curling. The futures are still available. The rocks are thrown tonight at 8:30 p.m. as the event is in Kelowna. Brad Jacobs and his Alberta team basically bounced Brendan Bottcher from his own team. They are the favorites at plus 155. Matty Dunstone, the gunslinger, representing Manitoba, the second favorite at plus 225. Canada, Brad Gushue, was plus 450. It's been bet down to plus 350 despite a pretty tough season certainly compared to Brad's standard. And of course, Bottcher is now the second on Brad Gushue's team. They're plus 350. Mike McEwen and Saskatchewan plus 550. Northern Ontario 7-1. Kevin Cooey 15-1. Manitoba Reed Carruthers 60-1. And there's some other great props if you want to get. You can bet to qualify from pool play. Province of winning team. Alberta's plus 140. Manitoba's plus 190. But I do have a little ride with Huss I think they put together that's in the combos. And you got to get it in before things start. But a nice little boost. Jacobs to win the Group B. Dunstone to win Group A. And again, all these games are so important. It's not just you move on and start from scratch. I think these two teams are on a collision course for the final. But to win their groups respectively, that's boosted up to plus 285 if you want to jump on that. The other thing that is always fun to touch on is the WWE. The Elimination Chamber's up. Apparently there was some sort of online leak, so the men's chamber match is not listed right now. The women's Elimination Chamber is, though. Bianca Belair is the favorite. I kind of think that is right. I do expect her to win. You can also bet first participant eliminated and competitor make most eliminations. And the one really interesting one that you might want to wager, Kevin Owens going up against his best friend, Sami Zayn. KO, minus 145. Sami Zayn, plus 105. And I have a feeling, Remis, that Kevin Owens is maybe a little bit bigger a favorite than he normally would be in a match like this because his close personal friend, WWE fan Bruce Boudreau, will be in attendance at the Elimination Chamber cheering on his pal Kevin Owens. He said it earlier on this week with Dusty. He is so excited and fired up to be a part of the Elimination Chamber. And as we know, big wrestling guy, big KO guy. So Bruce Boudreau will be there. Keep an eye out for him at ringside if you're watching the matches on the weekend.
At ringside? Bruce Boudreau? How crazy would that be?
I was hoping he could walk out with KO.
Man, remember, where was it at the draft where they ran into each other and he was starstruck?
Yeah, he was absolutely.
He's
and now they've connected, they've talked off air, and yeah, he's going to be a special guest, Bruce Boudreau. Anyways, few Elimination Chamber offerings out there as well. And as far as the a men's Elimination Chamber, not sure whether it gets up, but if it does, it'll be over there at CoolBet. Everything else coming up for the weekend. By the way, big slate of games tomorrow. Don't forget, every single weekend, you have one bet in the National Hockey League that you can add to 25% win boost up to $50. So maybe you can do that for the Jets as they try to start a new streak tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers. It's all there at CoolBet. You want more on the Brier, WWE, NHL tonight? Check out today's lock shop over at Edmonton Sports Talk. All right, dude, that is going to wrap up CoolBet. Use the promo code WST, though, if you haven't played there before, for a 100% bonus up to $200. Oh, and quick announcement. Our next poker event, now that football's over, we're going to try a Sunday night. And I think we're going to move it up an hour as well. So March 9th, Jets are playing Carolina on the road. I believe it's a 4 p.m. game, 3 or 4 p.m. game, Winnipeg time. We'll get going with our next edition of the Lock Shop Poker Series for WSTers, ESTers, and anyone else that wants to join us. March 9th, 8 p.m. start. So Randy River, the rest of you guys that have been playing, throw that in your calendar just to remind you. And we'll let you know next week as we head into the weekend. But yes, a week Sunday, March 9th, 8 p.m. will be our next tourney. And after finishing second to Randy River last time, Remis, I'm focused on my first ever win in a championship in the Lock Shop Poker Series. Cannot wait for that.
Yeah, I need redemption. It's been just downhill for me since finished. It's like Jim Carrey's hockey career. Had the great rookie season, and you never heard from him again. I finished second in the first Lockshaw Poker Series, and I haven't cashed since. So I need to get on the horn here and start reading up and learning what the good hands are, because certainly I'm doing a really bad job. So I need to get it back on the horse here.
Jay Miller, God, that is funny. I'm just imagining it now. Wrestling tag team from the past, the fabulous Boudreau brothers. Bruce would have been an incredible wrestling character. Still probably make a great manager as well. Anyways, gang, you know what time it is. It is time for our Friday marble race on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll do one next week. It'll be maybe a bit later than normal because of the extended trade deadline show. Again, we're starting off at 11 a.m. next Friday and taking you through the final buzzer with full reaction and analysis to everything happening with the Jets and around the league. And Wednesday, entire week's going to be big. It's sort of anniversary week for us, but also Wednesday is going to be our 1,000th show. So we're working on a few special guests for that one as well. Make sure to join us. But it is not the weekend yet unless we drop the marbles, and we can't drop the marbles until we hear from our guy Tristan Rivers Music. So Rima, why don't you fire it up? let's get the theme song going and let's get ready for today's race on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. Phone the whole day, so lax you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Give blind luck a try. It's time to do a marble race. Nose gets separating best to worst. Marble race. Just like marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spare or you will suffer all next phase. Get to your mark before it's too late. Set go.
All right, it is just about time. By the way, great to see Connor and Liz in the chat. Great to see them last night at the event down at Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. WST Sunday Live this Sunday. We'll obviously break down the game on Saturday. Look ahead to trade deadline week and the Jets' upcoming road trip. But they also have a very special guest. Okay, good. He said it. I saw they were teasing it. I didn't know whether I was supposed to say, but Jeff Merrick is jumping on with Connor, Liz, and Jacob. So if you haven't already, you should be subscribed to our channel. Turn your notifications on, and that will remind you Sunday morning at 9 a.m. that the gang is going live. And what a great time, Remo, to get Jeff Merrick in with the gang. Merrick obviously all over every nuance of the National Hockey League. And I don't think the timing could be better for Connor and Liz and Jacob to have Jeff Merrick on, considering the intrigue that awaits us on the other side of the weekend with the trade deadline.
Yes, a lot of intrigue. We could even have a big trade. I remember Nino Niederreiter was acquired on a Saturday, and you were at a tasting at Little Brown Jug, as I mentioned yesterday.
A personal tasting.
A personal tasting. So we'll see what happens. You could be anywhere, Huss, if there's a trade this weekend. We'll wait, stay tuned, to our social medias as well. But yes, Sunday, 9 a.m., I'm sure they'll be talking about the Jets game. Probably a win, Huss.
Yeah, hopefully.
Do you see the poll? 87% of 141 respondents think the Jets will win in regulation. So just mark it down. Win. So
win in
reg.
Win in reg. Win. All right. I will take that under advisement, and I will sprinkle on Cool Bet Jets in regulation tomorrow, now that we've been guided by the folks. I don't know why they wouldn't. They're better than Philly, I'll tell you that much. Philly lost last night to Pittsburgh they smoked them a couple times in the past week. They played again last night. Big comeback win by the Penguins in overtime. All right, where are we going today?
Hold on, people. I post all these polls, and I get heat for them. You can only put in 4 options. And you try to make people to have a decision. I can't put all of the above every time. That's boring.
There's no notes in this. Feel free to abstain if you don't want to vote in a poll. It's entirely up to you. It is a voluntary part of your time here in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat.
Just trying to have fun here.
But yes, Jets' biggest need before the deadline. Top 6 forward, 12%. Depth scoring, 8%. Veteran defenseman, 74%. Nothing. They're built to win, 5%. I'm with Ken. I mean, I kind of think that we'll get a little addition on both sides. Just that the question is as to how significant of a player can be added and what the price will be. So I'll tell you what, it's going to give us lots to talk about next week. That's for sure. And I'm sort of feeling, I saw Chris Johnson tweeting about this earlier on today. I should pull that up. He said that it is very quiet right now.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
Yeah, here it is. I'll read exactly what he had to say. We're exactly 1 week out from the NHL's trade deadline, and the chatter remains much quieter than usual. One hurdle is how few teams are truly open for business and ready to sell. but there's still time for the action to pick up. And Chris and everyone else on the panel, as we talk with John Shannon, hoping that it stays that way until we get a flurry of deals on Friday when all the talking heads are tap dancing around for 7 or 8 hours with trade deadline coverage. We'll have our tap dancing and trade deadline coverage right here. We'll start it off early at 11 a.m. and we'll have tons of people popping in with us throughout the day with their thoughts on all of the deals and a focus on the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, we're going to have to kill some time. I remember last year at the end of the show, we opened a box of Upper Deck searching for Bedard. The only Blackhawks young gun we pulled was Kevin Korchinski. It was a bit of I said, young gun? Blackhawks? And it was Korchinski, so we'll have to see.
I haven't gotten any cards yet this year. Maybe I will slag a box on the weekend or something like that and keep it around for, we'll do some fun stuff, but hopefully we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about with the Winnipeg Jets. How many marbles today?
Okay, we got 245 marbles. I just added Hustler, all exclamations.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Should I add in Nemesnikov for his extension?
Let's give Vlad one for the extension.
Because you know what? Like, there's so much talk. Nobody wants to sign in Winnipeg, blah, blah, blah. Signed 2 contracts here. Nemesnikov. Guy's found a home. So shout out to him. That was last Saturday. Kind of got washed over the Jets win streak. And I should mention this. I don't know if you heard, but we were in the latest episode of Runway on TSN. They've been using our clips. So shout out to Sarah Lesky and the team at the Jets who keeps putting us in there. I gotta like pinch myself that my voice is in this documentary about the most historic Winnipeg Jets season of all time.
We'll always
pretty
have
cool.
that. We'll always have that here. The daily streams, we'll be able to go back and see what we were feeling like after all these wins. And yeah, listen, the Runway, I mean, most of you I'm sure have seen it already, but there's a new episode out. So well put together by Sarah and the team over at the Jets. And yeah, they do use quite a bit of WST audio, which we certainly love to provide for them and be included in it.
I picture Connor Hellebuck watching this video with his family, Jets Runway, looking back on how great their season is and subjected to listening to me and like how they're probably like, who's that nasally voice in Runway? I picture some of the players like,
they're not going to forget it. They're not going to forget it, Reem. We're doing it. All right, let's do this. Shout out to everybody in chat. I don't know whether any of our friends at the St. Vital Dental Center are taking a quick time out, but if they are, shout out to Dr. Terry and all of them. When I was getting my cleaning the other day, the dental hygienist, who was very, very nice lady, she mentioned that she was introduced to the marble race last Friday when Stonewall Dave came in for his appointment, and they had it up on the screens. So we might have a few entries from St. Vital Dental. Shout out to Dr. Cherry in the game over there. You guys can check them out at stvitaldental.ca, 167 St. Anne's. All right, let's do it, Reem. Where are we going?
Yeah, I did some test ones. Okay, I like this one. This one was good. It's called Zippy Zapping Zone. It's got a good
Z.
It's got a good finish. I went through the ones that were played a lot. This one was played. Has been used. It shows how many times people have used it. So this one had a lot, and it's got a finish where you got to go through the uprights, which I liked. So
I love it. I love the uprights. Hey, lots of excitement in the chat for Jeff Maricon with the gang on WST Sunday Live. Again, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Oh, really nice comment from Ron P. Don't underestimate your worth in the Winnipeg sports scene. You guys deserve all the recognition you receive. Ron, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, and Stonewall Dave is getting a lot of juice out of this story. Hey, they were still talking about it when I went in on Tuesday morning for my cleaning. All right. The Zippy Zapping Zone. New track, 247 marbles in the hopper. If you win, we got a WST hoodie for you, courtesy of our friends at Shipham and Associates. Really appreciate them helping us out. Clothe the marbles champions of Winnipeg in the race. All right, I'm looking forward to this track. Racing style start. Here we go, Remis. Let's drop it and get this weekend underway. to start a new winning streak for the Jets tomorrow night against Philly. All right, we've got some, I don't know what those things are, little rockets popping up and down. I don't think anyone got taken out. Somebody, no one's been lost yet. Look at Phyllis out of the gate early. Phyllis, Kenny Menard, Chuckers right there. Rob Pepper as well. Ray's first one into the funnel. Trevor Red Ranger is always in the mix. I think maybe the most consistent marbles player we have. Oh, Mary Jane got knocked out. No. Dave McLean also out. Doug McFarlane in Miller time, 1980. Who's coming in? We got Ryan Dry, Paul Carr, Ray, Austin Hockey, Trevor Red Ranger. Okay. Whoa. All caps Kyle just got thrown ahead. So did Unreal Shots, and so did Schickster. But all caps Kyle has the lead right now. Schickster's going the wrong way. I'm not sure what's happening there. He's getting caught in these lasers. But Kyle got, as they call it, the members bounce. So we'll see whether he can be caught. Ryan Dry's having a bit of a tough time making through. He's right at the start. All caps Kyle, and then the Herbster, Jet Oil Tom in the mix. We've still got some ways to go. T. Will just got pumped out of action. Lambert, 37. All caps Kyle makes it through. We'll see if Lambert can get a nice little push here. But right now, Ken 007 making a move. Lambert, 147. And all caps Kyle, who got the members bounce, has now blown the lead. Lambert, 147. All caps Kyle's going backwards, I think. And it's Lambert, 147. Ryan Dry, Ken, 107 right now. Here we go. Is Lambert, 107, going to get through the uprights first? Ryan Dry on a heater coming in, trying to catch Lambert, 147. Lambert, 147 is close. Will he get shot through the end zone? Not yet. Doing these loop-de-loops. Ryan Day on the other side now, trying to close the gap. But it looks like it's Lambert's race to win. And victory has been achieved. 147, or Lambert 147, our winner today. Ryan Dry and Ken 007. All caps Kyle, who got the gift of all time, not able to capitalize. Tough one for Kyle. Coachy 51 fifth. Oh, accountant to the stars, Michael Lay, 6th place today. Big Mike, nice work. Luke Christ, Warren Monroe, just back from Hawaii. Brad Batters, and Steiner, the top 10 for today's race. Looks like a number of people are getting whacked. They're getting burnt is what's happening. I'm just seeing all of these skulls beside a number of individuals. And there's Aaron Desolet's, the final ball to get burned, not getting in. Lambert, 147, 138. Nicely done. Lambert, send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. We will, and let us know what size you are for hoodie. With your contact info, I'll holler at you and you can pop by and pick one up at a time that is convenient for you. All right, let's run down here, see how things go. We got some side bets going on. Jedi Tom there in 13th. Not bad, not bad. There's Ray, Ernie Thiessen, Phyllis with a pretty good run. Johnny Bender. There's Schickster and Julian Labossiere. Tristan Rivers Music. Nicely done. We've got Jess in 33rd. Coach Mike, Trevor Red Ranger, Jeff Johnson. There's Todd Fertani. What's up, Todd? Ross Ransby, 57. There's Waiters, Jerry Beluda, Rob Mahoney. Doesn't look like I finished, or did my buddy Bozeman?
Not a lot of finishers here.
No, well, I think it was a slower race for a lot of marbles, and then they all just got burned.
Okay, start going backwards.
There's Hustler.
Yeah, there you go.
And essentially, if you didn't see it, there's Bozeman. Well, it's a push for us today, Sean. No big deal. No blood today, as they say. But I did like the course. It just seemed like they were a little in a hurry to burn everyone and make them X's for the show. Fun one today. Embarrassed DNF. Manny Fran, don't worry. So many people got whacked. Phyllis is pretty pumped though. 21, No Frills Demo, top 20 performance. Hey, if you got it done. Yeah, big marble race next week. Maybe we should do something special for the 1000th show as well. We'll work on that over the weekend. We'll put our heads together. But definitely join us throughout the week next week. It'll be it might be the biggest week in WST history, actually. And how about Connor and Liz kicking it off on Sunday when we won't even be working with Jeff Merrick on WST Sunday Live? So check that out as well. What do you got going on, Reem, other than the game tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a good question. I got kids' activities for sure. I had a great time last week. Went to the ODR on the Saturday. Spent some time there. So I think we got that. I'm not really sure what else. I'll have to be glued to my phone more than usual in case any trades get announced. Could be any time. So it's that time of year.
Yeah, you definitely keep the notifications on for that as well. I have bad news to let people know. And I don't know why they couldn't have waited till Monday, but I see that the barrier is out on the river trail. Oh. And as today is the final day of February, I think I seem to remember like March 1st being the day they just come in and take everything away. I mean, I'm sure you can still walk on it. You probably still can skate on it, but they're not flooding it. There's some snow on it right now. And I guess basically we just move on towards spring right now. So if there's no skating trail, let's melt it. I was looking. It's kind of free. It's cold right now and it's windy. And it's getting chilly tonight. But tomorrow, once we get through tomorrow, which is going to be a high of only -8. Today, the high is -12. That's where we're at right now. It's going to get nice. Monday, Remis, to kick off the week, 8 and sunny.
Yeah, people are making fun of me at the tasting. I still wearing my winter jacket. I guess I was anticipating today's temperature.
Ahead of the game.
I actually washed my car yesterday for the first time in months. It was so dirty, like you couldn't even touch it. And because there's never a good time. When's there a good time to wash your car? And I got the cleanest car out there still. So -11 right now. It's gonna warm up. It's feeling like playoff weather more and more. So I'm excited, but yeah, I still got the winter jacket. I haven't switched over yet.
Looking forward to the game tomorrow. Oh wow, I just found something online, Reem. Pristine Auction.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't know where they found this. Check this out. And it's sponsored, but probably because I click on a lot of Jet stuff. Mark Scheifele signed Jets logo hockey puck, inscribed first NHL goal, 10/19/11.
Whoa. Where is that, like the puck?
Well, I would imagine. Why would they sign it any other way?
Where did you... Let me see this. Should we buy it for the man cave?
It was who knows, maybe this has already happened.
Where did you see that? Did someone send it to you?
No, it was a sponsored Instagram post.
Oh, let me pull it up here. Mark Scheifele signed Jets logo. No, this isn't like the puck. This is just a puck that he signed.
With first NHL goal and the date of it?
Yeah, it was in Toronto. Why? This is just a regular puck.
I don't know. Pristine Auction.
This is just a regular puck. That's not the puck that's not a game puck. Like, I don't know why he signed that.
No. That will be it for sure.
That's not the puck. This is just a puck. So it's just a Jets logo.
So why would he put first NHL goal 10/19/11 on a puck if it wasn't the puck that he scored the first goal in?
I don't know. Maybe they asked him to, but that is not a puck that they use in games. If you've ever
in 2011?
Yeah, it says official game puck. That's just a regular puck. This is, yeah, it says official, like, this isn't a game puck. This is just some puck. Man, I get all these Instagram ads, Huss, like for signed jerseys. Okay, let me go. I'll say this. I get a lot of Instagram ads for signed jerseys, and the jerseys are always like fake jerseys with fake lettering. Don't even have a logo on them, and they just get them to sign. And so I don't know, like, who's taking charge of this, but I get really disappointed by some of the Instagram ads for autographed memorabilia. So,
have you ever tried to order anything from Instagram? Ever?
No, never.
Me neither.
Never.
So, I mean, the ads are, I guess, maybe not work. I just don't trust a lot of that stuff. But a place like Pristine Auctions, I don't think they're putting out fake.
Well, it's not fake. It's it's just an autograph, but it's not a game puck from a game in Toronto with a Jets logo. It's just a regular puck. So they try to doesn't specifically say either way. I don't know if he signed this or not. I don't know what Kojo authenticity is.
I'm going to do some digging on this. I don't know how they could plot. How would you not think that this is his first NHL goal puck when you look at that?
Because that's how they get you to try to spend money, but it 100% is not the first goal puck. There's zero chance. But that's how they look at any of the autographed jerseys on this site. They're all not even, it's just an autographed jersey, but it's some random jersey that looks like a Jets jersey with fake numbers. Look at this Line A jersey here. They have this autographed Line A jersey. This is a China jersey. This isn't a real jersey. Look at this. This is garbage. This is clearly a China jersey. You can see how the Heritage logo is. You can see the numbering. It's not the real numbering.
The font
it's not real. And so I get these ads all the time. Yeah, it might be a real signature, but it's on a fake jersey.
Okay, I think I might have to block Pristine Auction after this.
I commented on them. This is a fake I can tell. This is the colors are off. This one looks better, this Adidas, but it's not real. So I commented on them too on one of their Instagrams. Why are you guys listing fake stuff? And they don't respond.
I love the fact that over 200 people have you hung around for us to
look at this Perfetti Heritage jersey. This is not real. This is and I feel people don't know.
I'm getting murdered in the chat right now. Come on, Huss. Some people are stupid. Scam. And then this is the best one, Spency. It's time to put Hustler in a care home.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't specifically say first, it doesn't say or not, but it gets you to think that. I'm going to buy it. But yeah, this jersey, the striping's all wrong. The numbers are wrong. Watch out your Instagram ads. So there you go.
I'll be honest. My algorithm is usually other things than... there's a consistent theme of the content that I see on Instagram, and it's not really fake jerseys or pucks, but there is the odd sports thing that pops up. Schickster has a bridge to sell me.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of heat here.
Will someone take us his credit card stat? Man, good stuff. Well, hey, some good laughs to finish up the show. I will not be making any purchases from the Pristine Auction on any Jets memorabilia.
You can send it to me if you want. I can tell you if it's real or not. Or people are asking if you've given money to Nigerian princes on Instagram too.
You know what? I'm just about to send. I'm just about to press send on that one. I'm gonna get $1 billion. I only have to give them a few $100,000. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Big one tomorrow. Let's start a new streak. And then next week, huge week, our 1000th show, our 4th anniversary, the extended trade deadline special. Hopefully going to get a bunch of special guests coming on over the next few days. So join us on Monday to get to it, wrap the weekend, and then get ready for the Jets to hit the road for the entire duration of trade deadline week through next Sunday in Carolina. And again, next Sunday, the 9th, going to be our next poker night. With Coolbet. So make a point of joining us for that as well. Thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging around with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Big week coming up next week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you then. Thanks for being with us, everybody.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.